see me, I'll be me. Hey. That's crazy. That's crazy. Today's the 5th, huh? Yeah, that is 5th. I just started my live broadcast, and that bitch says scheduled for March 6th at 1:03 a.m. But if I press that motherfucker right now, bingo. There we go, there we go, there we go. Let me put my stuff in the area. Oh, before I go, let me let you know. Lennox is my fat baby. 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 My big fat baby. My fat baby. My big fat baby. Fat baby. Ba 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 da ba da. Fat baby. Ba 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 da. Let me stop. Y'all know how much I love that girl. Y'all know how much I love that young lady. That's my baby girl. That's my baby girl. I'm sorry, damn. You can't be sneaking up on me like that, man. I kicked the shit out that fucking sweeper. Oh, man. I still got the wings and shit right here. I don't even have my chair over here, my nigga. Okay, what else want to do? Put water in the freezer. Oh no, I only got one left. Oh no! Oh no! Okay, I just got two though. Still. Oh no! Okay, what else I need? I need this. Let me turn this. Ow! Sorry, fuckos. I'm gonna let my phone charge for a good little minute. Matter of fact, I'm gonna keep my controller on the charger until I can get my phone off the charger. Yo, feel me? Oh God! I'm retarded. I like watching myself. Is that a bad thing? Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. Yeah, I'm about to say, why they showing straight adult shit?
Alright. Let's stop bullshit. So what we finna do, what we finna do, go to subscriptions. Oh, so they breaking down the Godzilla shit too. They breaking down Godzilla and Deadpool shit. Okay. I touched the turkey's wee wee. Quill, stupid. Oh, bro, what the fuck? Oh, Quill, stupid. Quill is dumb as hell. Maybe I should just go down and just see. I can see some stuff. Oh no. Okay, wait. Okay. Is this where? Is this what I remember? Yep, cause there go Apocalypse right there. Okay, let's go on up with it. This AI shit. They couldn't get Hogan and Steve Austin to actually do this shit. This AI shit. Undertaker too. What the fuck? They could have made him look a little more realer than that. Look at Bianca. That's her. Look at Rhea. That is her. That's definitely Roman. That's definitely Paul. Post Malone?
Dude's a nightmare. That's why they call me the king. I'll show him a nightmare. Yeah.
I really want to get that bitch. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. Oh, wait. Before I do anything. Oh, shit. No. Trying to have me watch some Despicable Me shit. No. I don't like no goddamn minions.
Did you know? They say that Disney kids are a little bit more refined than like, do you know there was a little bit of like.
The only thing I like ever really heard from the thing is we were not allowed to wear horns
answer from your
Did you know they say that Disney kids are a little bit more refined than like people? Did you know there was a little bit of like?
The only thing I like ever really heard from anyone.
I did not meant to do that.
Broncos country, let's ride.
Hee
Broncos country, let's ride. 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 Broncos country, let's ride.
Head ass. How far, y'all? No, God, I'm sorry. Still looking. Fuck. Yep, got no choice. Fuck it.
Well, you know what they say, in order to remember. When you witness the arrival of J.B. Suggs start a roar. Like we call the sky J.B. Suggs, turning up the building at 3 p.m. CT. Think it was Saturday. Also, hello my friends, welcome to a brand new week after the festival. That's the being started out of all idiots. Just so happens to review sports entertainment. Be love and you love. Doesn't mean love. That sounds disgusting. Let's not.
Dun 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 dun.
Video focusing on smacking down because
Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Ooh. A little 3-5. A little 3-5. That was childish. A little 3-5. 3-5. Oh shit! Yeah, I'm from tripping. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Do you want to see me or be me? Dun dun dun. Dun.
do understand. And look at him with his verbal salad he keeps throwing out there. Surprise, surprise, people want you to be a politician, Dwayne. You're really good there. Rouge also addressed some of this other away from WrestleMania. That's before he saw that stupid PowerPoint presentation where the bloodline would go, our family is better than anybody else's.
Fucking Kayla, gotta be.
Like that. So, like, funny to call it a PowerPoint. That's essentially what The Rock did in front of thousands of people. Seth Rollins then came to the ring because Cody asked him to, and Rhodes was like, listen, you have had my back, old pal. I really appreciate it, but also understand you have to deal with Drew McIntyre now. The last guy to pin me. He is a big deal. You've got to walk away. I understand. Rollins poo-pooed all of that though, because while the Scottish Warrior does have to be
So
dealt
29%.
bloodline are more important than anything. And now Seth has to finish his story too. I was like, man,
29%.
stories to finish. Can somebody please write the final chapter? And why don't you just call the authors a page? Seth is also completely tired of The Rock, because he hasn't been The Rock for some time. And he came up with a brand new name for him, which was Diarrhea Dwayne. Oh no. Now to be fair, the fans did.
I'm sorry, y'all.
Rose, like, listen, you have had my back, old pal. I really appreciate it, but also understand you have to deal with Drew McIntyre now. The last guy to pin me. He is a big deal. You've got to walk away. I understand. Rollins poo-pooed all of that though, because while the Scottish Warrior does have to be dealt with, the bloodline are more important than anything. And now Seth has to finish his story too. I was like, man, there's something, stories to finish.
There's so many damn stories to finish.
Why don't you just call the authors a page? Seth is also completely tired of The Rock, because he hasn't been The Rock for some time. And he came up with a brand new
Bro, I just saw what the fuck I was looking for.
Diarrhea Dwayne.
I just.
Now to be fair, the fans did chant this, but he must have done something.
It's not even that serious.
And I think the idea here was that Seth Rollins was coming up with a stupid catchphrase that this brand new version of The Rock would do, therefore, it's meant to be lame. Very sadly, this is like Far Cry Blood Dragon. You see that coming, but we are going down this lane. Doing Far Cry Blood Dragon, they go, tutorials. Aren't tutorials funny and lame? Well, making you do a tutorial, put two and two together. Seth is also pissed off The Rock insinuated that he would take his world title away from him because he does have more powers, and the fact that Dwayne Johnson has said the wrestling is cool again. Because let's look at The Rock, he hasn't been cool in 20 years. Rollins they confirmed he is 100% clear and he will go to SmackDown with Cody Rhodes. They will answer The Rock and Roman Reigns. Because I turned into a massive 2024 geek, I was like, show us the new gangbusters. So the main point of this segment was, of course, to let you know you better tune in on Friday night to find out if we are doing this big old tag. And look, in that sense, it didn't do a good job. The small part of me, this part right here, was like, I kind of think Cody and Seth need to be way more aggressive here. Bloodline on Friday, they went nuts. I did enjoy it, though, and it got me excited for SmackDown, so I am going to give it an up. I can't go from that diarrhea line. Like, again, I understand what we're trying to do, and I always enjoy people swinging for the fences. Sometimes you miss. I've got to give it a down. Maybe feel a little bit oogly in my top down. We then move right into Dominic Mysterio versus Gunther after this. This is maybe the most fun I've ever had in my life. What a loser. The best part actually had nothing to do with the match itself, because Michael Cole at the start said, well, we just want to congratulate Sting on an amazing career, because he recently retired. And then Pat McAfee weighed in and said, man, what an amazing last match. It was absolutely brilliant. The internet is also pretending that Cole cut off Pat when he said that, but that's not the case. The match on Raw started, so we had to talk about that. But give me more of this. Especially when it comes to somebody like Sting, as the fans say, he deserves it. I don't.
Chris came to TurboTax because
I switched gears from delivering part-time.
Oh, yeah.
Part-time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Spanking Dominic is picking up in 10 minutes. Like at one point, he was bouncing around the place. It didn't work, and the ring looked at him like he was absolute trash. Just went whammo, down he went. JD McDonald was also at ringside, and he kept trying to help, but that was like kissing a bee because you've got some kind of insect problem. Didn't work. Gunther even hit his death line at one point to get the 1-2 ooh. But it wasn't a 1-2 ooh, it was a 1-2 I'm going to pick your ass up because I'm not done with you. When he continued to just kill him, he hit the power bomb and they locked on the Boston Crab. He's from Boston, and Dom tapped out instantly. Another reason why I love that character. He gets it. So this was basically just to remind you, you do not flub with the Ring General. Get it up. You should know it. Dakota Kai made it very clear we're allowed to be here because we're part of the tag team champions who can go from brand to brand. And I was like, look, okay, that is true. You better not cause havoc. Kai insisted they were just here to scout Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. For some reason, Adam believed it. I was like, right, don't be so gullible. Right, well, let me sell you this amazing content. Shinsuke Nakamura also wanted to have a chance to continental title, so they went into Adam's office. Don't worry, it was a tease. He was going to reveal it later. Andrade was then shown arriving at the arena. I was like, well, all the other superstars make it, so we haven't seen them turned up. Well, Kane and Carter had a ton of chance of like, we're going to win back the women's tag team titles. They went to the ring, they faced Shayna and Zoe, and they totally lost. They lied to us. Savage Control were ringside for this too, and I totally lost it because Adam pissed. I get that you can't stop them coming into Raw, which you absolutely could have stopped them sitting from ringside. Somebody go have a word. Jones and Carter do have the best moves though, because they hit this double Spanish slide thing, and they were able to hit the tie kick.
Anyways. Let's get this in my system. Yeah. Yeah. I'm retarded.
Back to the Future 4, we have past months. And those kind of feels to me like we are headed for a multi-person match for WrestleMania, which I suppose will be fine. This is alright, so I am going to give it an up. But I am in a geek mood today, so I'm giving it down to the most entertaining moves in all of sports entertainment. I mean, you're making Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark the #1 contenders. Just let them hit their big old maneuver and get the 1, 2, 3, and at least we can believe it a little bit more. Put us down, but it's down all the same. Judgment Day was end here, and they were trying to sort stuff out from earlier, because of course Tommy Boy did off. Damien Priest and Finn Balor was like, hey, JD Madonna, we think you can sort out Gunther. It was like, Rouge don't want to do that. Same idea, they were going to sort out Imperium later. When Andrade walked in, and did a little bit of a shuffle, and while Priest wasn't impressed with this, the Condom acted like he could be an athlete. Broke my crappy beard. Maybe we were going to do something like Dominic Mysterio versus Andrade at WrestleMania. Speaking about the self-shows, we're about to break the mold. Because sometimes the obvious choice is the right one. We've talked about this a lot. If you sit your ass down in a movie theatre and you're watching a romantic comedy, you just want to see the two leads get together and you cry, you have no love in your real life. That's why I cry. Master Nairad was a little bit because she's so powerful. I thought, Bex will fight back. He will get the win, and she can head off to WrestleMania. That did not happen. Now, Naira, of course, was able to hit a couple of Samoan drops. Is fine because she is Samoan. And when she worked for the Annihilator and Becky Lynch moved after casting to dodge this, of course, she's going to get some moves and apply the armbar. They kind of did that. They spilled to the outside. But do you know who appeared from nowhere? Liv Morgan. Now, she, of course, attacked
Liv Morgan.
She wanted revenge for what Becky Lynch did to her last week. The referee saw this and went, well, that's a disqualification, and by the rules, Nia Jax wins.
Oh, wow.
Lynch and Liv then got into it, so Nia Jax took advantage of this, and she just smashed both of them. And then later on, we saw Becky and Morgan falling out, and Becky was like, why'd you do that, man? Last week, I was just trying to get revenge on Nia Jax, and now you're trying to get revenge on me. It was like, yes, that's entirely the plan, what's wrong with it? I thought this was great because it goes to show that WWE superstars do remember things that happened to them. At the time, well, you could go week to week, and it didn't matter what happened, say, there we go, everybody forgot. It also makes this build to WrestleMania super interesting, because now Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan are having it next week. How the hell is that going to tie it? And after they had fallen out backstage, Rhea Ripley and she saw the man and went,
come on.
You're a loser. I like this. It's like we have one big narrative, everybody's invited. Get it out. When Ricochet was back on Raw, when a slub of you did, he also decided, despite being absent for ages, he was going to march to Adam Pearce's office. And he said something like, I've realised that around here, closed mouths don't get fed. I was like, Rick, you haven't been on the show in weeks. Stop speaking in riddles. Adam then told him to calm down and he stuffed the pizza into his mouth. He didn't do that. When JD Madonna walked in, and he too wants a shot at Intercontinental Champion, Adam, you have a situation on your hands. Now we can get some segments between this that we've already talked about. When we come back to Adam Pearce, he was making his big announcement about the Intercontinental Championship, and he turns it into a produced video. It had music and clips. It's like, How did you make this in about 2 minutes? But we are going to have a gauntlet match next week on Raw featuring Sami Zayn, Bronson Reed, Shinsuke Nakamura, Chad Gable, JD McDonough, and Ricochet. And whoever wins that will become the #1 contender for the Intercontinental title. Now I did laugh again because a lot of these people that have been entered are just those going, yo, these title shots, that does work. This will be a then we can start building to the IC Championship. Like over 600 days, WWE has steered me wrong. Today.
Add more joy to your journey at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Get in and get away now before these deals are gone. Get 0% APR or the $1,500 bonus cash on the Hyundai Tucson. But hurry.
Sorry, y'all.
It turned out this Raw was people just randomly coming back because Apollo Crews was here too. Honestly, I need a new story about where he's been. Then he was just cannon fodder for the properly debuting Andrade. Yet this went pretty good. It was this cool spot when Apollo went for a superplex, but Andrade turned it into 3 amigos. And then he hit the DDT, he got the 1, 2, 3. Probably the right thing to do. So I have no idea what's next for Andrade. It kind of feels to me like he should be in that Intercontinental title shuffle. I guess he's not going to win. Don't do that, so I am going to give it up. But when it comes to poor Apollo, who is such a good wrestler, it makes me question why we ever could much from NXT is getting it down. You just reminded me that he should be being featured more. Sami Zayn then cut this amazing promo about how he had to get to WrestleMania to win the IC title, and he probably should be the guy. When Valhalla and Ivar walked in, they were like, listen, we're Vikings, we think we're more deserving. It all ended because they decided to fight later, and I was like, yeah, this was good. There were also so many segments of this war that came from nowhere, because all of a sudden Tegan Knox and Natalia were back on TV. They were kind of arguing, but not. Because Natty dropped in that line about getting hungry and forgetting our manners, which was an homage to her father. Essentially, he wants them to go on the same page and go after the titles, and then Candice LeRae and Indy Hart would agree, so did Maxine Dupree and Ivy Now. You can see why.
Maxine Dupree and Ivy Now.
Wow, that is so random.
Stop looking. Kind of making me uncomfortable. This is when the Judgment Day did exactly what they promised. That made me feel nice. They're out there, and they beat Imperium. What absolutely rules about this though is that clearly all 4 of these guys went out there and decided, well, we just listen to how the fans react, and if we need to switch on the fly, we will. And when all of a sudden, this Balor and Damian Priest were getting to it, they started to work babyface. That is a massive round of applause. This is top tier stuff. Here was Balor who got beat up for a while too before he got the hot tag. Damian Priest who went absolutely crazy with flatliners. At one point he took a pointy bit of his elbow and he smacked Giovanni Ricci right in the face. The second arrow then followed for a 1-2 when Finn had water in his hand and he was desperate for somebody to touch it, which Damian did. Hot tag. He finished that run with this amazing coup de grace that Ludwig Kaiser broke up the 1-2. I won't lie. And totally fought that. I thought they got it. And I've got instant revenge on him though, because he did a big guy, so take that and party. When Damian Priest and Ricci got into it, I wanted to tried to steal one. Damian was like, no. And this massive clothesline, the big old choke slam, and he beat him for the 1-2-3. This just makes me so satisfied. Sometimes I just want winners, I just want losers. And the Judgment Day are the tag team champions. They should be able to go around and say, that's right, we're the best. It also does sound like we are going to get a brand new set of tag team titles soon, one on Raw, one on SmackDown, but we've already talked about that. But in terms of the match itself, I'm going to give it enough. Could we turn the Judgment Day good guys permanently? Yeah. It's up to you. Wrestling is but a story. We then got the official announcement that Paul Heyman is going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, and yes, there's no one more deserving. Also, this makes all the sense in the world. WrestleMania, Heyman. Michael Cole also told this great story about how Heyman had helped him at the start of his broadcast career.
What you doing, bitch?
And that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to contribution from Paul E. Yeah, I said it once, I'll say it twice. He really does deserve it. We then got to our current hater of the year next. We have an interview with Drew McIntyre. Now we have had some shifts when it comes to hate of the year 2024. I mean, Drew remains number 1.
Most for us.
Hangman Adam Page has moved up to number 2. He cost himself the world title just so Swerve would win. As you can see, AJ Styles is still number 3. He did fly all the way to Australia to beat LA Knight. They'll be there for a while. It's also a question of who have you hated lately. Damage Control is in at number 4 because of course they absolutely wrecked me. At number 5 is Sidney Uso. Anyway, McIntyre is so bad at Seth Rollins he does not concentrate on the matter at hand, and he just wants to be in the spotlight. Look at this. CM Punk comes back. There's Seth Rollins. Cody Rhodes comes back. decided he's done with all of this and the world championship deserves better than Seth, so he's going to win it at WrestleMania, and he's also going to beat the piss out of Jey Uso later. Really good, he also then made sure to find damage control and basically said to Io Sky, don't do anything stupid or I'll break you.
Which one do you feel hit you with the lip?
He defeated Ivar, they will do the other match better. Now, of course, the big talking point about all of this is the fact that Michael Cole tried on the antlers. I don't know what's happening to me with this. Look, I've got the shirt on. I am the owner of Goofy Wrestling for life. It's totally lost on me, and I just find it weird. Why does he like the antlers so much? They also got absolutely flattened with a sentinel at the start of this. Well, they was able to come back with this amazing song powerbomb for a 1-2. Sammy being like,
I'm retarded.
I missed. What am I going to do now? Turns out he just needs to hit his bonus first, which also looks crazy when he finally got the kick from hell, whatever you want to call it, and he got the 1-2-3. Again, I was distracted here because Valhalla was annoyed that Michael Cole was wearing the antlers, was doing this weird dance as the announce table. I'm going to have to go lay down. Bronson Reed also made sure to take advantage of this, and he laid Sammy out afterwards, which of course ties into the gauntlet match in 7 days' time. Was then talking to Kathy.
I got a problem, bro. I really got a problem.
Guess he gave me a kind of a good fight. Also a massive.
As y'all can tell, do y'all know why I gotta make sound effects for everything I do? I don't do that just on camera, bro. I'll do that to anybody. Like, literally. Just like the one that I just did there. I always do that shit. I'm walking by people, I go. Oh, I got a problem.
He also likes the fact there is this gauntlet match on Raw for his championship, because this is the biggest prize in the game, so everybody should be vying for it. The only sad point when it comes to those guys is they'll get to WrestleMania and they'll lose. Jack Gable took exception to that, so he confronted the ring general. He was like, listen, I am done with that condescending smile on your face. I'm going to win the gauntlet. I'm going to go to Mania. I'm going to take that smile. Instead, I'm going to put it on my daughter's face. I was like, bro, you have to win that. If you do not do this, he's going to call a spade a spade. You're a bad father. Here, though, when he does go serious, my word, he makes you believe. Look, there's a lot of contenders in that thing. Wait and see. Jey Uso then replied to Drew McIntyre and said he was going to kill him, or words to that effect, when Xavier Woods DIY the Miz and R-Truth playing WWE 2K24. I mean, it is out this. The Miz is really annoyed, though, because he doesn't like any of the plans to get revenge on Judgment Day, which is dropping slime or feeding them bread. And as R-Truth said, I think that's a really good idea, because one of them may have a gluten problem. Honestly, I laugh so much. R-Truth is my hero. Miz said a better plan was actually trying to win the tag team titles, as DIY and R-Truth called themselves Regeneration X. Now look, I'm going to be honest with you, they couldn't have been more geeky, they couldn't have been more nutty, they were massive dweebs, but I'm giving it up, because I love all those three things. One of the most entertaining things I've seen in days. Two people who are walking in a completely different direction though were Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso, so we did get to our main event. I thought this cool. Because they hate each other so damn much, it almost instantly was throwing each other into Alan the announce table. When they got in the ring, Uso hit a bomb of power for a 1-2-ooh. McIntyre came back with a spine buster and threw Jey to Barry barricade, and that's when Jey was doing Samoan drops, which again is okay, for he is Samoan. Of course though, as soon as Jey Uso did climb to the top of the turnbuckle, Stone Sakara was here. This time he wasn't hooded, he was out in the open. Which is when, finally, after 3 years, somebody in the back was like, well, it's the bloodline doing it here. Why don't we just go out there and stop them? And here came Cody Rhodes. But of course he played the music. Why would you want to do that? Like you're in some kind of a war. Sir, should we do a secret attack? No, blast them too. They didn't get into it though, because they brought over Barry Barricade into the crowd. And Jey actually took advantage of this. He hit all the super kicks and a spear. Where he was going to go for the splash. Guess who else arrived? That's right, it was Jimmy Uso. What did I tell you about the board? And even though he does do this a lot, Jey couldn't handle the fact that his brother was here again. Totally forgot he was in a match. He turned around, he got Claymored, and Drew just beat him, and I love this. As because McIntyre does not care anymore. He just wants wins. So he really is Britney Spears because he did it again. And afterwards, Jimbo was going to use this step when Seth Rollins' music started to play, and he too had realised, oh yeah, we could just go out there and interfere ourselves. Now, because he zoomed past Drew, McIntyre was like, I cannot believe the disrespect. Before Seth could do anything, the Scottish Warrior appeared in the ring and Claymore Seth's head off. He also yelled at Seth that once again he needs to ignore the bloodline and focus on him because he's taking that world title. This is how Raw went off air. I tell you, once again, the converging storylines here are super interesting because you all know it's going to go down on that Night 2 WrestleMania main event. Absolutely. You also have to go on social media right now to see the video that Drew took when he was leaving the arena. The guy's on fire. Right? I enjoyed this Raw much. Like it felt out of control, which I think is the point, and it did a good job in promoting SmackDown. Now, of course, please do click the video on the screen, which is ups and downs to AEW Revolution, so we can say buy this thing together, like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Leave me a comment below to let me know what you thought about the show. Don't forget WrestleMania weekend.
I almost clicked it too, but like, nope. Sting wasn't part of my childhood like it was to y'all. Because he spent most of his time in WCW. Well, he did, yeah. He was in WWE before he went to WCW, I think. I don't know. Whatever. But, yeah. I always heard about Sting. And I got a good stint with him because he was over there at TNA. And I started watching TNA as I started watching WWE. So I guess you could say he was part of my childhood, but like I don't know. It's just me. For me personally, I ain't really care. I ain't really care. To be honest, I ain't really care. But it's all good though. It's all good. Damn, ain't no way I've been through. Oh, I went through all the videos already. That's fucking crazy. Thank you, Lord. Fuck it. First Godzilla movie. 2014 Godzilla.
We get you.
You hungry, little guy? One familia style. I'm gonna name you Garfield.
Let's get it.
Good morning.
You deserve to be seen with somebody else. We're gonna need the big scale.
Does she need to announce it to the whole office?
Say when.
Never, John. Bury me in cheese. My tier is pretty near perfect. Little did I know, it was all about Dakotas. Already I'm dreaming again. Slap me across the face. I think this is a case of mistaken identity. You must be looking for another gorgeous, lovable kitty cat.
Come on, Jimmy.
You. This is Vic, my father.
Welcome back, Victor.
Listen, I mean you. I haven't seen you for years, and when I do, you're on the run from a deranged man.
We need to toughen you up.
Hey, I know tough, Vic. You've obviously never been in an Olive Garden that's run out of breadsticks. Follow my lead. Oh, sure. Probably one of my top 26 favorite cheeses.
My orange tabby and my dog are both missing.
Your call is very important. There are 1,046 people ahead of you.
God damn.
We have to go save my dad.
Oh.
That cat's the government.
As a cat.
If I don't make it back, tell my story. Are we married? You saw nothing.
Try Old Spice Total Body, which went
I
for the
guess,
first
bro. That's my first time seeing the full trailer. I only saw
Welcome
like
back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemens, and this is a breakdown of 2014's Godzilla. On March 29th, the MonsterVerse will have added its fifth film, Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. After welcoming Godzilla, Muto, Kong, Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, Skull Crawlers, Skull Devils, Baby Kong, Spores, Behemoth, and Bryan Cranston, there's so much of the MonsterVerse to break down and actually... Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemens, and this is a breakdown of 2014's Godzilla. On March 29th, the MonsterVerse will have added its fifth film, Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. After welcoming Godzilla, Muto, Kong, Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, Skull Crawlers, Skull Devils, Baby Kong, Spores, Behemoth, and Bryan Cranston, there's so much of the MonsterVerse to break down and actually explain. So let's get straight into things, and also settle once and for all whether the right Brody died. Everybody's sending into Hollow Earth with you for our MonsterVerse rewatch series and breaking down each and every MonsterVerse film plus Monarch Legacy of Monsters to get us ready to bow to our new king, the Star King. I'll call this series The Descent into Hollow Earth. That's not good. The Monster Mash is a title stolen. Heart like Heave, the Hollow Earth and Rockstar theories, maybe God Thriller, 2K24. You know what? I'll workshop it. But first, be sure to check out nerdride.shop to check out the latest and greatest in New Rockstars merch. Right now, you can grab our Multiverse Tour shirt featuring the many eras of Deadpool. It also comes with a hoodie or a crop top, or maybe pick up the Madam Web shirt that has that horrible line that I don't like and everyone loves. Grab some merch from nerdride.shop is the best way to support the channel and support all the work that we do here. It makes it so Kong doesn't come and beat me up. Kong can beat me up. Okay, either way, let's get into this. If you're watching this, I assume you've already seen the 2014 Godzilla movie. This breakdown will contain spoilers for that movie and Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Not like huge ones, but definitely ones that will maybe ruin the experience for you if you've never seen it. So you've been warned. The opening gives us the classic Warner Brothers picture logo, then segues us into the traditional Legendary logo. In 2010, Legendary acquired permission, or more so a license, to use Godzilla from Toho and planned to make a film with Warner Brothers Pictures. Legendary would produce while Warner Brothers could co-produce, co-finance, and distribute. While Legendary and Warner Brothers continue to build our MonsterVerse, Toho's been releasing their own Godzilla pictures, the latest being Godzilla -1, which is definitely by far my traditional Legendary logo. In 2010, Legendary acquired permission, or more so a license, to use Godzilla from Toho and planned to make a film with Warner Brothers Pictures. Legendary would produce while Warner Brothers could co-produce, co-finance, and distribute. While Legendary and Warner Brothers continue to build our MonsterVerse, Toho's been releasing their own Godzilla pictures, the latest being Godzilla -1, which is definitely by far my favorite Godzilla movie. So Warner Brothers Pictures and Legendary...
Hold on, they said reboot. What reboot of what?
Build our MonsterVerse. Toho's been releasing their own Godzilla pictures, the latest being Godzilla -1, which is definitely by far my favorite Godzilla movie. So Warner Brothers Pictures and Legendary Pictures recently renewed their license to make more Godzilla movies, but Toho will be doing the same, and both are just separate in different universes. Not the same Godzilla, but they're gonna both be making a lot of content. Normally the Warner Brothers picture logo opens with that "as time goes by" from Casablanca, but instead this time it's completely quiet and hollow. Someone's trying to connect their scratchy radio signal, then shrill reverberations crescendo. You can hear this like big band orchestra strings picking up, so we're all feeling pressured and stressed, like we're searching for something but running out of time, and we are.
Yeah, that's creepy.
The intro montage hurls us into the history behind the famous creatures that came before us. Mostly every image is followed by evidence of the existence, man's plan of attack, and redacted statements that hold some Easter eggs. I love beginning the movie this way because there's no dialogue, and it does such a great job of setting up the importance and the history between us and the creatures to understand where we both are in the movie. And if you remember, the beginning montage is kind of long, it's 2 minutes, so I'm going to be getting into it in depth kind of right now, so buckle in. We start with a cave painting, I believe, of Godzilla, given the spikes down their backs. Warner Brothers, a Legendary Pictures present a terrifying tale of disaster. Whoa. The image depicts St. Bernard the Navigator. The image itself comes from this book, title right here. You know your girl can't read that. A book written in 1621 about a monk on a voyage to a strange island where he encounters many monsters. So this is basically hinting at that being a true story. We couldn't find the exact reference for this one, but it's very similar to the images Hawkins' sea dragons. Thomas Hawkins from the 1800s was an eccentric fossil collector. He had a collection of Ichthyosaurus and Plesiosaurus remains, which this appears to be an image of, and I'm sorry, those animals are so hard to pronounce. Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection or the Preservation of Favored Races and the Struggle for Life. This is a book that outlined evolution evolution and natural selection. The original book had only one illustration, so none of these pictures are from that. But this inclusion again feels like the filmmakers are trying to ground Godzilla in a real world, but also ask questions like, is humanity the dominant species? Maybe Godzilla is. We get a diagram of different prehistoric animals that we see later during Ford's debriefing scene. Gareth Edwards, our director, had redacted parts of his name. It says Gareth Edwards film that certain magnitude of the weapon is enough to turn everything to dust. Greek pots from 500 BC depicting Hercules battling Cetus, a mythical creature of Blue Titan. Monarch Files, where you can see the Monarch logo in the top left corner. This is the first time in the franchise we see the Monarch logo. It was designed to represent the nexus between myth and science. Additionally, Kyle Cooper designed the Monarch logo. He was briefed to be like an M or a butterfly and a warning symbol, and he did all three. This file covers the sinking of the USS Maine, which is a real-life incident that led to the Spanish and American War, which looks like it was secretly the work of Godzilla. The credit reads, Aaron Taylor Johnson had recorded the seismic activity. References for the seismic activity is just like connected to the nuclear plant in Japan and what starts the movie. The article says, convinced explosion on warship, not an accident, from this real-life newspaper headline from the USS Maine. They credit Ken Watanabe of a 1MT surface burst into Bikini Island. We see the Bikini Atoll nuclear test in this montage, which Monarch had a hand in, attempting to kill Godzilla but failing. A lot of this video footage is footage from Vivid History that just supplies you with a lot of history's footage. The next article is about a sunk submarine. Article mentions 25 crew dead. Couldn't find the exact real article about this one, but clearly something Monarch had a hand in. Lost submarine at last located. Can't find the reference for this one either, but given the copy about recovering bodies below it, I'm betting it's the recovery operation of the Scorpion or the Thresher of the two nuclear subs that were lost. They credit Elizabeth Olsen's name here, emphasize that there are monsters in the depths of the Pacific. Handwritten, it says destroy the creature. Written under this, it says burrowing. This is hard to make out, but it's the definition of burrowing. This now connects to the underground tunnels and Godzilla vs. Kong and how all of it just connects to Hollow Earth and stuff. Government denies reports of the third missing submarine, probably related to what we see later, Titans feasting on nuclear subs. Noah Chen, our writer, found out in the 60s 4 different submarines went missing, and US only has ever lost 2 nuclear submarines, so this might be hinting a third that was covered up. A species of reptile that we thought was extinct. The animal did not die from the event, it is alive in the Pacific. This could be a report from Bill and Keiko Randa after they discovered Godzilla was alive during the Bikini Atoll test, where they thought they killed it. The deputy director of Monarch has had some strong cases to eliminate the creature in the Pacific Ocean. To extinguish the threat, it is with executive order that I hereby authorize the operation of Moto. The creature possesses a threat to the national security of, up to Monarch, to end the terror, that this is for the protection and interest of the free world. We will protect all from herefore unprecedented threat from the natural world. This must have came from after Lee Shaw was ousted as a commander of Monarch. We saw this in Monarch's TV show where he was replaced by more gun-ho army types who wanted to kill Godzilla. An old school Navy soldier saluting an American flag credited to Juliette Binoche. And it says here, some specimens have been found that date 4 million years. In the back,
4 million years.
Febreze. I use Febreze
4 million years.
to make my home smell amazing. On my bed, my couch, my jacket or jeans, in between washes, even shoes. Febreze doesn't cover up odors with scent, but fights them and freshens. Over 1,000 uses. Febreze Fabric Refresher.
We believe it takes caring leaders to make caring leaders. If you believe that too, join us at Chamberlain University.
We all know anything can happen out there. Sometimes we feel lost. We push and we suffer. We keep going. That makes all the difference. Hey, what happened to you, boy? You don't look so good. Meatball? Oh, somebody likes my meatballs? The Paw Patrol. We got a race to win.
I see me, Luke.
Remember, Michael, this race doesn't define you.
Mark Wahlberg.
19 years. This is my last chance to win.
Over the next 10 days, these athletes will cross 400 miles climbing, biking, and kayaking.
Nigga, what?
Daddy.
Go, Daddy, go.
Let's start and get the meatballs. 3 days, 200 miles ago. Leave the stupid dog and let's go. Come on. Move. Tell him, come on. Where's your boy? Oh. Can't believe I almost walked right off that cliff. Extra meatballs for you, my friend. He's hurting.
And it's based on a true story. What the fuck?
Whatever it wasn't good.
How the hell did he get all the way from here to there while we were on bikes and zip lines and running and climbing? He must have wings we don't know about. Boy, you know.
What the fuck?
You want to start to embrace the buckets of pain?
I need a bigger bucket.
Team Port Braille has travelled over 200 miles and they found a companion.
Daddy has a dog?
What have you done?
Did you find your partner suffering, Michael?
Yeah,
He's the king.
I think we should call Arthur.
Hearts of the king.
And it's the name of the dog. Get the fuck out of here.
Guess though he's a vet. I don't want you to hurt anymore. He's a fighter.
Just like you.
Famous dog. Looks even worse than the rest of you. Maybe you all deserve each other. I always underestimated Arnold, buddy. This isn't around on the map.
It's okay. Just follow Arthur.
Lead the way, King.
I've never seen anything like this.
Everybody knows about it. Guess what? I'm not a dog person.
Story Gareth and
I hate trailers that give away too much of the plot.
250 million years. Later in the movie, Graham confirms that the planet was
You got stars in these movies. They gonna come see it.
How old they could be to
Fuck.
us, when in reality, we don't really know the half of it yet. Footage of an old school fitted diver getting. Some specimens have been found that date 4 million years. In the backstory Gareth and Max created when blueprinting the script was Godzilla and the Mutos could go back 250 million years. Later in the movie, Graham confirms that the planet was highly radioactive and the creatures siphoned from that. So this is just showcasing just how old they could be to us, when in reality, we don't really know the half of it yet. Footage of an old school fitted diver getting ready to dive in. I'm thinking this is either a diving team that was exploring the wreckage of the above submarines or a team that was trying to get footage of Godzilla underwater. Then we got Godzilla spoons coming out of the water. Monarch boats, the logo on the side of the boat says it all. Credited is Sally Hawkins. It says search there by submarine. A Russian nuclear sub is destroyed later in the movie. TV screen showing divers. I assume this is salvage operations for the lost subs. Then an image of a tape recorder. DC scientists are studying life on Bikini Life before having tests. Can't tell if this is real, but Noah found a very similar headline here. Then a shot of Washington men who will study the effect of the atom bomb dropped on Bikini Atoll. This says even with nuclear weapons, there's no guarantee that the creature will succumb. It is likely the creature will come back with David Strathairn's head. David plays Admiral Stentz, so him dying fighting Godzilla isn't too far off here. Also a nod to show how the movie ends with Godzilla ripping another creature's head off. Shots of Japan, maybe locations of potential bombing sites during World War II. This is an Easter egg that's really funny. Walter Malcolm has claimed that the government men dressed in white lab coats routinely appear at site, and Bryan Cranston shortly after the event, all residents are sworn in silence. This is just an Easter egg reference to Bryan Cranston's roles and Malcolm in the middle and as Walter White. The document to the CIA about the founding of Monarch, knowing what we know. I think this was written by Lee Shaw. Interestingly, the second point talks about their primary objective being research, which is how Monarch started before becoming more secretive and militaristic. The scientist and occult author Richard T. Jones has claimed unique knowledge of the creature's odd mating habits with C.J. Adams. This could be our reference to the Mutos. Monarch's eyes-only TV screen. This feels like a training video, and I actually kind of love it. The Argonne National Laboratory with the Monarch logo, a real lab founded in the 40s focusing on nuclear research. In the Monarch show, Monarch asked for nuclear materials early on, which led to the Bikini Atoll bombing on Godzilla, so I wonder if this is where they came from. Then we have Sarah Haley Finn over the lab workers for the credit. The Trinity site plaque, and additionally, its credit redacted part says, are these animals real? Can we prove they even exist, or are they merely men in rubber suits with costumes designed by tricksters? Sharon Davis. We may never learn the answer what lurks below. And this is just funny to me because she's our customer, and they're just questioning whether these animals are real, or they're just in suits. The call response to the bats may give us clues. Visual effects supervisor Jim Rigel has used sonar to map this communication. Then footage of subs and Navy SEALs. Visual effects producer Alan Maris despaired. Sound design by its nature is always Eric Adel. A disruptive and Ethan Van Der Rijn. Violent birthing process for all parties. Eric really worked on the audio design for Godzilla's Roar, workshopping it for like years. And this is saying the sound design by its nature really speaks to that, because you want to make something different but also representative of a beast that's been roaming the world for so long. Footage of scientists and researchers. The redacted credits here read music supervisor. Hidden in the depths of Dave Jordan. The thunderous sounds that came from the hills are from large creatures. Later we see how much noise the Mutos make in the hills of Hawaii. High explosive crates. The monster communicates through music composed and conducted by Alexander Splat, which we later could say, mating calls in a way, our music, which we see later in the film. American soldiers and sailors with an Asian family. Kind of looks like Shaw in the Philippines. The Philippines is where Keiko and Shaw first see the Titan. Bill saw one earlier when he was on board the USS Lawton. This is allegedly Operation Tumbler Snapper, a series of nuclear tests in 1952 Nevada. It also resembles the target shape we get around the female Muto traveling through Nevada on the news later in the film. Then it says not to be discussed by film editor Bob Duxey. The confidential document must not be shared. Monarch training video showing test bases in Marshall Islands, the Bikini Atoll location. The Illuminati has been using production designer Owen Patterson to build facilities to hide their study of the creature and its origins. All clues are suppressed. Monarch's logo on the bomb, then a satellite and radar imagery. The bomb site is classified and will be detonated at 0800 Pacific. Director of photography Seamus McGravy will shoot. There will be no living organisms on the island. Then we get some more Bikini Atoll footage. Executive producers Yoshimitsu over footage of us people living on Bikini Atoll were forced to relocate by the U.S. and were not treated very well at all during the time. Produced by the fire-breathing Thomas Tull. Fire-breathing is right because this is the CEO of Legendary Entertainment at the time. Nuclear test observers put their glasses on. We saw this in the Monarch show, but we also saw this in Oppenheimer. This was shot on the USS Missouri in Pearl Harbor. Then we get some more shots of Godzilla and Bikini Atoll. And then we get a shot of the bomb. And this was recreated in Monarch, though there are some discrepancies. They painted Godzilla on the bomb, but in the Monarch show, they didn't really know anything about him at this point, including his appearance. This credit sequence makes it seem like Monarch had some idea of Godzilla by the time of this bombing happening, but the show retconned this. The final redacted credits say reliability of these sightings is still questionable based on the character witnesses. One must ask, is Godzilla owned and created by Toho Company Ltd? Reliability of these sightings is still questionable, which could be a nod to the fact that Monarch has been known to keep secrets and destroy evidence. This is a carcass first described in Japanese story by New Zealand fishermen in 1977. The carcass, David Callum, was decaying and weighed 4,000 pounds. This dinosaur has been dead for about 30 days. Pseudoscientists tried saying this was mere basking shark. This is a sea serpent-like corpse that the Japanese fishermen found off the coast of New Zealand in 1977, and scientists deduced that this was a basking shark, but maybe it wasn't. Then it says there are photos of animals yet to be named in the new screenplay by the occult author and nature enthusiast Max Borenstein. He seems to explain what these odd animals are. This could be a nod to the unnamed animals like that carcass of the same species Godzilla in the Philippine cavern that wasn't named. It was just given a code name. Eventually it was named Dagon by the comics. The script is referred to as the new screenplay here because it went through a lot of writers. David Callahan pitched to Legendary and Warner Brothers, was hired to write the first draft. Once Edwards joined, Callahan's first draft was rewritten. David S. Goyer was originally attached to rewrite the script, who worked on The Dark Knight. Then he worked for a minute and he left. He said it was because he was too busy, according to an interview with Collider. Then Max Borenstein continued to write the script. He also wrote the Godzilla comic that came out the same year, going on to contribute to the stories of Kong Skull Island, King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, and co-created The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty on HBO. I added that part because I just really like that show. And all of this is to say he's very familiar in the MonsterVerse franchise from the movie going forward, so he had a large hand in the script. Later, Drew Pearce polished the last of it, and in 2013, Frank Darabont did the final rewrite, so a lot of hands have touched the script. It's directed by Gareth Edwards, Monsters, the name of the last film he made before Godzilla, and what a great film. Then we're left with the aftermath of the explosion, gray sky to ash in Godzilla's name. This is a remarkable way to introduce the franchise. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. We've all got goals, better work-life balance, stress management, but figuring out how to tackle big goals like that on your own can be difficult. Connecting with a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can help. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier and less intimidating for a lot of people. The right therapist for you may not be in your area, and some people struggle with face-to-face interaction of therapy. With BetterHelp, you can have your therapy sessions as a phone call, as a video chat, even via instant message, whatever's most comfortable version for you. BetterHelp has over 30,000 therapists in their network to choose from. To get started, you simply fill out a questionnaire that will ask you about what challenges you're going through and what kind of therapist you'd like. Then BetterHelp will match you with a therapist, and in most cases, it'll take less than 48 hours. Schedule therapy sessions at a time that's convenient for you, and if for any reason you feel like your therapist isn't a great fit, you can switch therapists with a click of a button at no additional cost.
Fuck BetterHelp. They scared me.
And also get you 10% off your first month.
I say fuck them.
A lot of the juice in the titles was actually shot as its own scene. They were originally going to start the film with the text in the South Pacific, but to reduce time, it just became the titles. The title sequence was also done by Kyle Cooper, who went on to do them again in Godzilla King of the Monsters. We start the official movie flying over the Philippines in 1999. However, this actually was shot in Hawaii at the very end of shooting, no less. The Philippines were the location of Monarch's TV show as well. It's where Keiko Mira and Lee Shaw and Bill Ronda all saw Titan together during the 50s, which motivated them to create Monarch. We're introduced to this team Dr. Ishiro Serizawa, played by Ken Watanabe. The character was named after Daisuke Serizawa from the original 1954 Godzilla film, and the famous director Inishiro Hama. Our Dr. Inishiro is the lead Monarch biologist, and his costume during the scene is based off shot E.G. Tsuburai's everyday work outfit on set every day that he wore. E.G. was the special effects director and one of the co-creators of the esteemed Godzilla and Ultraman franchise. He's looking at a pocket watch here, and this pocket watch director Gareth Edwards stole from set. It also makes an appearance through the movies. We see it again in Godzilla King of the Monsters. This pocket watch explained later in the movie between Ichiro and Admiral Stenz, but it belonged to his father and stopped on August 6, 8:15 a.m. 1945, the day the atomic bomb landed over Hiroshima. According to Godzilla Awakening, the comic book, his father survived Hiroshima and found Ichiro in the aftermath, though this pocket watch still stopped right there on that time. That watch is a reminder of how human interference, inhumanity, and reckless retaliation can just lead to nuclear destruction and countless lives lost. And like a sad symbolism, Serizawa firmly believes Godzilla is here for the good of nature. Interfering with nature leads to devastation. Similar to time, nature will find a way of restoring its own balance without man coming in and ruining it. So that watch represents man's foolishness to nature. There are two comic books that are pretty well connected to the MonsterVerse that I've read, and that's Godzilla Aftershock, written by Arvid Nelson, and Godzilla Awakening by Max Bernstein. They're both referenced as tie-ins to the MonsterVerse. Awakening has some great confirmations, but Aftershock has some events that didn't line up canonically and contradicted some of the film. We don't know if it's still canon, but Max offered what we didn't see on screen could be kept secret by Monarch. Though I think like Monarch, Legacy of Monsters is kind of clearing that up right now. I'm mainly noting this because there might be some stuff I referenced from that material, but you deserve to know whether it's good or not. Honestly, the comics sometimes feel soft canon, but luckily they try to follow the movie's lore. They just want to like blow it up a little bit more in the comics. Next to
Disfruta de un aroma ligero que dura sin perfumes intensos ni colorantes. Downy Light, el aroma ligero que dura.
Yeah, it's that good. Want it, need it, cheesy.
And welcome back to this US Open Office Plan.
Miller just lobbed a message way over Jones's head using some technical jargon.
Sally Hawkins, who's joined the cast almost 3 weeks after filming started. Her character is Vivian Graham, a monarch paleozoologist, recruited by Serizawa. What we're seeing here is her first field assignment with Dr. Serizawa, investigating the collapsed mine that they discover a huge skeleton referred to as specimen 5146_Adam. In Godzilla Aftershock, they revealed the creature as Dagon. This outpost is later called Monarch Outpost 14 in the same novel, a call out to the year this movie came out. This was meant to be a uranium mine. Once they got the signal of radiation, a month before they arrived, the men brought their tools that immediately sunk the mine, exposing the underground cavern. Essentially, my understanding is the spores were dormant when they had the radiation they needed. They're generating their own radiation underground, and over time, the atmospheric pressure, let's not forget the mining into the planet, released the radiation as a leak, exposing it to the air, thus waking up the larva in the pot. And if baby's not getting its nutrients, baby's gonna find it, thus leading to the next heavily radiated location, which was the Janjira nuclear plant. The spores in the sunken cavern were explored more in the Blu-ray special features and the Aftershock comic book. According to the Aftershock comics, the earthquake beetle implanted 2 parasitic spores into the abdomen of the host titan in order to incubate by feeding off its atomic energy. It just laid eggs in its stomach after battle, and that's gross. So the Motos' first appearance in Godzilla 2014, but we see it again in Godzilla King of the Monsters. In Godzilla King of the Monsters, they refer to them as Titans instead of Motos. In Godzilla vs. Kong, we call them Titanus Motos. Moto also stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism. They reproduce in bundles and feed off radiation, so they need as much radiation for their babies, and back in the day would just lay their spores inside the adjacent Godzilla specimens. Females tend to be bigger in size than the males can fly, but these are working theories since we haven't seen many of them in Monarch. We're then taken to Janjira, Japan, a fictional place, which I hope you already knew, though the mountain in the background is Mount Fuji, which is real, which I also hope you already knew. The score for this movie is also pretty damn incredible. From the cave, you hear the repetitive, distant draws of a violin, like screeching, lurking, eeriness we get in Jaws and Psycho. It builds as it reveals the creature's tracks cross into the water like the Jaws score unraveling when it's near. The entire orchestra finally begins to sync up, feeling bigger than Godzilla, and it's giving like a horror movie, but because the orchestra is so massive, it feels almost too elegant, but also dramatic. It's all just so beautiful, and it's all composed by Alexandre Desplat, a French film composer and conductor who worked on the Grand Budapest Hotel and The Shape of Water, so he's great at composing little freaks. Then we're taken to the Brody family home, specifically Ford's room. Ford was named after Harrison Ford because they wanted him to be like a young Harrison Ford. The Brody family is also named after Martin Brody from Jaws, and there is a ton of homages in this film to Jaws. We'll get into them. His room is set up like any young boy's room would be. Toys are just everywhere. It's a mess. The poster, though, next to the exit has a lot of Easter eggs. It says, "Let them fight," probably the single most popular line from the franchise, and has been noted to have imagery that foreshadows the end of the movie. It's Godzilla versus the Muto, and the train lifted. They're fighting in San Francisco, and you can see the bridge, but below on the ground, he has military tanks, dinosaurs, and soldiers all around his spaceship. All imagery will be seen later in the movie. We don't get a spaceship per se, but the ship looks exactly like the missile we're using to lure the monsters at the end. They both also have the same US flag stapled with Cuba. On Joe Brody's old-ass 90s computer in his office is the graph to track the tremors that the creatures are making. In later movies, we see that they use just a seismic reader and Gia to follow their movements. Here, we're tracking their echolocation and the electromagnetic pulses they're creating. We're now introduced to Joe Brody, played by Bryan Cranston, and his wife Sandra Brody, played by Juliette Binoche. Both work under Monarch as nuclear engineers. And yes, Bryan Cranston is wearing a wig, because a day before shooting this movie, he finished Breaking Bad. Once inside the plant, the man trailing behind them is Stan Walsh, played by Gary Chalk, the voice actor for Optimus Primal and Beast Wars, and it just feels too easy to not call that out. Inside the control room is pretty sick, and I think this movie did a really good and cool job imitating Japanese power plants and staying as accurate as possible to the 99 aesthetic and design. This nuclear plant location was actually a sewage factory, so it just smelled like shit the entire time, says Gareth Edwards, which again lends itself to the broad and empty nuclear plant aesthetic without having to build a soundstage. You can just keep it all practical. The crazy thing about this was, in the movie, a lot of people misinterpreted the graphs reading for the earthquake. Later, Monarch hides the incident under the guise that it was an earthquake. And 3 years before this movie came out, it was in development the same year as the earthquake that led to the Fukushima nuclear accident. Seeing as Godzilla has been linked to Hiroshima and the Bikini Atoll nuclear test, fans assumed that the 2014 Janjir breach was a reference to the earthquake tsunami that caused the nuclear accident in 2011, especially after Joe confirmed that they had been covering it up, saying it was a typhoon. Gareth Edwards did say, though, in an interview that this film is not based on anything to do with Fukushima. It's a fictional city outside of Tokyo 15 years ago. Next, we see Joe having to say farewell to his wife. She dies at the breach. The closing door scene is just, it's so rough. This door is like the shutting off of Joe's sanity. In Ford's classroom, we have the cycle of a butterfly with other moths and creatures. We even see a glimpse on the TV of a butterfly hatching from a cocoon, doing the exact opposite of what the Muto is doing to that nuclear plant. The images on the wall show how the larva cocoons and becomes a butterfly. This is an Easter egg for Mothra, and it even shares the same light, similar color design and pattern. Overall, there's a lot of nature, rebirth, biological imagery here that can be direct comparison to the Muto's hatching, Mothra's emerging, and how nature and healing are at the center of this movie. As the nuclear plant crumbles, the windowsill frames the flying origami, dinosaur skeletons, terrariums, another moth, and prehistoric skulls. This was a shot planned to foreshadow the rest of the movie, as Godzilla and the Mutos must fight it out, destroying human civilization in the process. Even those children on the bus ain't a good sign. This scene reminded me of how Godzilla and Kong's trailer, we see Gia in her room, and on her windowsill she has a bunch of animals and a dream catcher. If that scene is like this one, it speaks to the fact that she's in a hollow earth, and the abundance of creatures there, she will sense, and there will be a diverse amount and plenty. We jump 15 years later to San Francisco with our baby boy all grown up, now played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, a U.S. Navy EOD, explosive ordnance disposal specialist. This man talking to him on the ship is credited as Captain Freeman. He's played by James D. Beaver. He's also Aaron Taylor Johnson's military and expert trainer during this movie. His wife is Elle Brody, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and yes, I completely forgot they were both in this movie. And also, yes, every time they kissed, it made me uncomfortable. They were both cast in Marvel as the brother and sister Pietro and Wanda Maximoff 1 year after this movie released, but I also think their post-credit teaser came out the same year as this movie was released, and it's just gross. Look, I get it, they're actors and they're just acting, and this actually happens a lot. It happened with Sally Field and Tom Hanks, Ansel Elgort and Shailene Woodley, Chris Pratt and Emily Van Camp. That one was weird because they actually look like siblings. Like father, like son, Sam has many toy dinosaurs on the table and dinosaur wallpaper in his room. This is to remind us how many big creatures will destroy his family, but also are little nods to the theme of the movie. On the table is a red dragon, which could be a call out to the entire operation meant to originally take out Godzilla in the 50s. It was referred to as Operation Lucky Dragon. Later in San Francisco's Chinatown and around the Grant Avenue gate, you can see the golden dragons everywhere in the foreground. So this could also lend itself to the Luck Dragon operation as well. Ella's a nurse, and what really struck me is she's wearing a Virgin Mary necklace. The costume designer Sharon Davis mentions in Godzilla Art of the Destruction's book, giving the main cast clothes that reflected their professions and their expertise showcased in functional clothing. With Elle specifically in the Virgin Mary, being the symbol of motherhood is just really interesting to me. As Mary was seen as the mother of humanity, Elle nourishes her family and tends to her patients all the time. Nurses are kind of like humanity's mothers. I just thought this was interesting to give her that piece of wardrobe, and we don't really see their family being religious. There's an unnecessary amount of green in this movie. Enough for me to notice, and that might be a connection to Godzilla being green. In the 1954 Godzilla promotional material, it was depicted as green, as well in a lot of the Japanese video games made by Toho. We have young Ford in green, the green camo, the ship he lands in San Francisco is green. Later we get large green lights and more green accents, but the cutouts on the dresser look like animals and the jewelry box is green with spikes. And I'm not saying I'm wrong, but I wouldn't completely knock the green theory here because that jewelry box is hideous. And why add it if it isn't for the tone? Then we're in Tokyo, retrieving Joe from prison for trespassing the quarantine zone in Janjira to retrieve documents from their old home. This movie also makes it look too easy to just fly to Japan. That super long flight, I'd be tired. I think right here was supposed to be the Kira Takarada cameo. He was supposed to be playing an immigration officer, and Takarada starred in the original Godzilla 1954 and appeared in a lot of their sequels. It unfortunately was cut, and Gareth was gutted about not making it into the film. Though it didn't make the final cut, he's still credited as the immigration agent in the credits. Unfortunately, though, he passed away in March of 2022. Once we reach back to Joe's home, the house is a mess. He's Pepe Sylvian all over the place. What's interesting here is their old home is in quarantine zone, which is miles away from the plant. Joe makes note of this because it clearly wasn't a natural disaster. There's something else afoot. Joe has become the crackpot theorist character, which I feel like there's always one in these films. Brian Tyree Henry plays one in Godzilla vs. Kong, Rondo was one in Skull Island, and a bunch of characters fit the bill in the Monarch TV show. Honestly, even Serizawa in the original 54 film was a crackpot. The old clippings acknowledge the officials can't contain the radiation, the events of the day, even photos of the lab. After Joe shades his own son for working with bombs, and Ford corrects him, we then cut to the headline that reads 1954 cover-up in the South Pacific, which is both a reference to the key in world events, as well as a nod to the year the original Godzilla film was released. We see Joe doesn't trust the government, recognizing how quick they were to hide the massive casualties, and now son is part of that problem, so he's probably just like shading him because he's disappointed. Side note, if you watched this recently or you just firmly remember this, there's probably a ton of articles you can barely see right now because the scenes might be incredibly dark for you. That's because you might have an older copy like me. Around the time of Godzilla vs. Kong, they released an updated 4K for 2014's Godzilla, which looked so much better. You could see more. It wasn't dark, and the designs were positively crispy. If you're that person who's like, I don't get it when people complain about it being too dark, well, find the older version, because that was darker than a butthole. That was pure darkness. Next, we get the book on echolocation in bats and dolphins, which is a real book. Then we see a book for parasitic patterns, which I don't think is a real book. But both show how Joe is studying the communication these characters are displaying. The next morning, when he's looking at the photo next to Dr. Serizawa, is a diagram on echolocation in bats signaling to a butterfly or a moth. Clearly, that's a nod to the monster we're going to see later, the flying male with wings. Could even be a nod to Mothra, but this is also a tease to Camazotz that was explored in the graphic novels. Gareth Edwards mentioned trying to find lines in the movie that resonated with the theme of the film, and this scene absolutely hit that nail on the head.
But you can't keep running away. And son, you can't bury this in the past.
Which is truly a note he should be taken, but also does make sense for when the Titans arrive. To not run, just fight. Might be a theme for the movie, but doesn't make it a good idea. The quarantine zone of Janjira City was flipped on its head. It's been 15 years since people have been evacuated, and all that's living other than the Monarch security and the cocoon being are a bunch of dogs. The whole quarantine sequence is a callback to the Monarch TV show, where there's also a sequence of breaking into the quarantine zone to retrieve old data. We reached the
When enamel is gone, you cannot get it back, but you can repair it with Pronamel Repair. It penetrates deep into the tooth to actively repair acid-weakened enamel. I recommend Pronamel Repair. With new Pronamel Repair mouthwash, you can enhance that repair beyond brushing. They work great together.
Dawn Power Wash has 3 cleaning boosters not found in traditional dish soaps. It's more than soap, it's power wash.
Old home of Brody and immediately see a bunch of bugs and creepy crawlies, a roach on a military tank, and a literal terrarium that says Ford's Mothra. The egg of Mothra? I don't know. Also, the military tanks that get manhandled later on are probably connected to this imagery. Back in the Janjira plant that we haven't seen in 15 years, the logo is still kinda standing. This movie has some homages to Jaws and Jurassic Park, but for sure that sign is given Jumanji. I love how overgrown everything is. This is pretty natural, but also in King of the Monsters, I think they said that the Titans can terraform or replenish ecosystems, which it really looks like is happening right now. Gareth Edwards mentioned Close Encounters of the Third Kind being a huge inspiration for this movie, and the entirety of Monarch covering up Janjira is really giving Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Also, when he realizes it's a hoax and he takes off his mask, that is also a direct nod to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You can see the cocoon it's put itself back into in the light up of the embryo holes that were featured in the Blu-ray special features. We saw something similar to this in the Monarch show in the 1950s, where a previously radiated area had no radiation in it because the Mutos eat radiation. So the Muto larva traveled all the way from the Philippines to Janjira, and this is what the spore now looks like. You can even see how the graph matches the same levels the day Joe was trying to set up the meeting from the office. The security guard standing in at Joe's interrogation is wearing a Muto symbol on their arm. Earlier in the film's development, Monarch was originally going to be called Moto, naming themselves after the monsters they searched for. This Moto research facility kind of studied the male Moto, while Monarch still existed overseeing it a little bit, because the captain later mentions the US military taking over operations of what Monarch was working on. In this scene, Bryan Cranston really ate up this line. He came straight off Breaking Bad. He wanted us to know, and you can't tell me otherwise. He is fed up. He's been searching for the answers and withdrawn from his own family. He yells about the EMP, the electromagnetic pulse, eventually sending us back to the Stone Age, which it will do if the Titans rise up and take over the planet. Remember when I mentioned Garrett trying to find lines in the movie that resonate with the theme of the film? I think this line delivery from Joe is the warning the voice of reason character always gives in movies like this, setting up that we'd never be prepared for a battle with nature. Then the moment we've all been waiting for, a little over 30 minutes into the movie, and we see our Muto. In concept art, the full-fledged design was inspired by King Kong, Alien, Jurassic Park, and Starship Troopers. It definitely has the head of Alien, where it looks like it has no eyes, but it does. Jurassic Park's movements of the prehistoric animals. Also, the scene of it reaching out of its enclosure, breaking the wires, is very similar to the scene in Jurassic Park. The Starship Troopers of it all just feels purely in it being a giant insect, and I still love it. Then Joe falls, and I'm sad to say later he succumbs to his injuries. This feels like the most unforgivable way to die. Bryan Cranston really owned this role, and I was so sad to see him go so quickly and dirty. At least have him be eaten or something. Ford has now lost both of his parents to the same creature at the same job site. I can't. God! Gareth Edwards backed up his decision killing Joe, though he understands why everyone's upset, mainly me. He said they tried versions of the script where he survived, but then if he was stuck with Ford, it would become the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And if he's stuck with the military guys, he'd just be a fifth wheel. I get it, but god damn, he went out dirty. The creature then flies away, and this is insane. When they created their design, they looked at how, like, bats sometimes cross their wings. Ultimately, they wanted the Mutos to feel like its wings were capes, and the grasp of the wind under that thin layer of skin echoes as Ford passes out. We jump to a news outlet, and the cuts and editing are so good on this film, but especially right now, because it suggests even in the editing there's no creature, only natural disasters. It says it was hit by a 6.3 earthquake, causing fires and more radiation leaks. And I'm assuming if the radiation leak is true, that has resurfaced from the Muto's spore opening and releasing a little bit of radiation. We're then introduced at the wreckage to Captain Russell Hampton, played by Richard T. Jones. He interrupts Dr. Serizawa as he looks at all the dead men that were working in the control with them prior to the hatching. They're all just dead. We're at the USS Saratoga now on the coast of Japan. The USS Saratoga participated in the test of the US stage at Bikini Atoll. We're then introduced to Admiral Stantz again, played by David Strathairn. Admiral Stantz appears in Godzilla King of the Monsters as well, and these guys have to keep a visual pursuit on the Mutos because it keeps wiping out their satellites and radars with their EMPs. All the news footage that we see on the screens was actually shot by Gareth Edwards and the DP Seamus on consumer camcorders. They were running around with soldiers imagining giant monsters were chasing them, and they just had a ball of the day. They began briefing Ford on all the work that they've been doing, and the video files log. We learned when Graham and Serizawa in 15-4, the first and real operational nuclear-powered submarine, reached the lower depths and awakened Godzilla. This is the same year the original Godzilla film was released. 1954 makes a lot of cameo appearances. All those nuclear bomb tests we did in the 50s weren't just tests. We were trying to kill Godzilla. So the creatures adapted to deep underground in the ocean to get radiation from Earth's core. And then us bombing everything all the time is no surprise that it alerts them. During the scene, Ken Watanabe is the only person in the film who refers to Godzilla by the Japanese name Gojira. It was important for the actor to use the actual name, and he fought for it. Also, every single line read this man has is great, so why not just let him say whatever he wants? Serizawa says the hardest line again, and it resonates with the theme of the movie.
Nature has an order, a power to restore balance. I believe he is that power.
During the briefing, we get a lot of historical, real nuclear test labs and shots. The orange tone explosion we see is the 1953 Atomic Annie footage of its blast wave destroying the trees. We get the Baker blast from 1946. Footage of Godzilla we saw from the beginning a little bit. The design of Godzilla is always so fun to see because he's always interpreted a little differently over time. And those are the markings I like to see from the directors on the Godzilla movies. We refer to this one as, and I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong, Giragoji, which is a combination of the director Gareth Edwards and Gojira, the Japanese name meaning Godzilla. A big part of the design with Godzilla was actually in his dorsal fins. When Gareth Edwards wanted to design Godzilla, they wanted these like hard rock parts just coming out like they were a mountain, which speaks to how Gareth really pushed the nature versus man element in the movie, with some features resembling the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal and movements like a Komodo dragon. They finished designing the Giragoji along with Gil since he's always underwater. The diagram of
Look at all this bacon. That's what I'm talking about. Audience, we have the meat.
We're done.
What about these?
What's that?
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty absorbs spills like a sponge, and is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Oh, smells good in here. Can I have some?
Steak?
the animals that we saw in the beginning montage. Then we see the diagram of an animal that's currently uncatalogued. It's labeled species 5146 Atom, which I spoke on earlier, is explored in the comic book Godzilla Aftershock and later named Dagon. Monarch footage jumps through embryo, something moving inside, then to Carmichael's Cave 1948, suspected burrow site. Carmichael Cave is also in Kentucky. We see more Monarch classified footage that we saw in the beginning montage, then a shot of the D1G test reactor, a laboratory in West Milton, New York. This sphere could also contain like huge explosions in case something popped off. That's why it's like a giant sphere. A contact mine being deployed into the water. Then we see more footage that's available in the Blu-ray special features of the Muto and the Philippines. We're then taken to Honolulu, Hawaii, in their international airport. This kid in the baseball cap is a throwback to the show era Godzilla films that frequently featured child characters in their similar costumes. We see an iguana perfectly sat in front of the camera before we enter the forest. This could be an homage to the 1998 Godzilla, where it was implied that Godzilla was a mutated iguana. I know that this is a nod to Godzilla. There's no way you're gonna put a little lizard in front of a camera unless it's Godzilla. They find the Muto and it's eating a canister of radiation from a ship. This is all a recipe for disaster. An airport and a creature that can shut down all forms of electricity. Planes will be falling down. They had to get approval preemptively before shooting any of the Hawaii stuff, so they made storyboards effective immediately into development and production because it required so much work. The Muto slams his little claw down and unleashes its EMP echo for miles. They confirm on the Godzilla wiki page that the male Mutos can do it within 5-mile radius because we can see the female one traveling later, and she's doing it in a sphere that reaches around like 200. The voice here that says could be a second Loki is actually Alan Maris, the VFX producer. The little girl at dinner walks to the edge of the shore to see a bunch of fish that just washed up on land and are dying. We saw this in Godzilla -1 because Godzilla dragged them up in his wake. This Godzilla pulled the entire ocean tide rising and swimming into Hawaii. Is that not insane to you? His fins rising out of the water coming towards the ship is also in the same Jaw spirit. This scene is just so cool, and I'm just astounded the difference it made once it was released in 4K. The internet also flagged that the song that plays when Serizawa sees Godzilla's dorsal spines protruding from the ocean, and when the soldiers shoot at Godzilla as he walks by, it's actually an update of Godzilla's theme song from the 71 Godzilla, and also similar to the 98 Godzilla, when Godzilla first emerges on the ocean to the old fisherman in New York. This is also his first appearance in the film, and it's a little under 55 minutes. There was a lot of fan criticism on the movie because of this. I actually liked it. I think the story works, seeing all the chaos start to unfold and realize it's not Godzilla doing it. There's also this tradition of slow reveals in monster movies. What's not to love about it? Godzilla didn't appear in Gojira until 21 minutes into the movie. Jaws didn't show up until an hour in. King Kong set up an entire theme before we meet him on Skull Island. A lot of movies do this. We see a dog tied to a tree escape the tidal wave made by Godzilla, and I don't know if you know this, but if you're an animal lover like myself, there's a website called DoesTheDogDie.com. This tracks more than just animal deaths in movies, but also very harmful triggers, so you're never caught off guard.
Oh, that's dope.
Did joke that the dog did survive, so I'll stick to it. We follow the
Okay,
tides
yeah, that's
the
dope.
streets to a building,
What the
powering
fuck?
off to the men on top of the roof. The red flares spark in the sky, hitting Godzilla like in the leg. No one screams because the fear sets in, and then we see the dumbest thing we can do, which is shoot at Godzilla. But he doesn't even care. He gives us zero attention. He walks around a building. The train lights turn back on. That's a success, but the Muto is there. So, unsuccess. Then it fights the train and lifts it into the air, allowing people to fall to their deaths. This scene has been done in Godzilla movies countless times, and honestly, it's like a kaiju staple. You gotta have a train. 1954 Gojira, he's munching on a train. Godzilla -1, he picked that bad boy up. He just loves munching on trains, and I get it. It's also common to see because there are so many trains in Japan. So if you're a giant lizard that acts like a cat, you're gonna see those trains moving and run at it. It feels like also a heavier homage when we do it, because trains aren't that custom here. Also, I don't even think there's a Hawaii International Airport that has a train. Gareth Edwards talked about fudging the scale of Godzilla throughout the film, but genuinely, I don't think anyone really does it correctly. He also increased in height since this film for the other movies. Personally, as long as he stays relative to size with the buildings, I don't really care. Making him the biggest thing on Earth is genuinely, yes, very cool, but also I have some limits. Though, an additional thing that I like, Gareth Edwards tried to shoot all the monsters only from the perspective that humans would be at to emphasize their scale. So we don't get a lot of drone shots or anything like that. It's mostly ground level shots, and that really makes things feel like massive to us. The airport fight could be a reference to Godzilla.
I didn't even know the female Muto was two-tone.
The next morning, we see the wreckage
Motherfucker
left
gray
behind
and
by the
black.
monsters, a helicopter for the news station KHWA, and misplaced people everywhere. I might be wrong, but instantly I said, I think this dude is Gareth Edwards, the director of the movie, makes a brief cameo saying the phones are down. I think I'm right, because only one other person on the internet agreed with me. Ford then talks to Sergeant Trey Morales, and Morales says this.
I guess what Monster Hunter's now.
Monster Hunter is a Capcom gaming franchise where you craft weapons and armor, but also fight giant, large monsters. Not as big as these kaijus, but you get the gist. Godzilla's on his way to hunt, and the ships are just following. Godzilla isn't preoccupied with us. I love that. He's here to restore nature's balance, aka destroy the Mutos. But I love this imagery of him actually escorting us when we think we're escorting him. They recognize the sport in Hawaii wasn't actually dormant, and when asked where they put it, he says, where do you put all your nuclear waste? Yes, Las Vegas is our trash hole. Only joking. It's the Yucca Mountain Nuclear Waste Repository, which is also a real place in Nevada full of nuclear waste. Don't go there. A similar hole to the one in the Philippines made by the male Muto is now created on the side of the Yucca Mountain. Through the soldiers' binoculars, we see a stunning view of the Luxor, Mandalay Bay, and other fine Las Vegas hotels. And oh, what's that to the right? The giant female Muto?
What the
Ready to
fuck?
party? This scene is funny to me because everyone's gambling while the news footage says live, terror in Vegas, thousands are feared dead in Honolulu. In that footage, you see that she's taking down Planet Hollywood. What will we do without Planet Hollywood? I need those jackets. And oh no, she's destroying Caesar's Palace. Where will Celine go? The farmers open the doors inside of what looks like the Venetian, but on this side of Caesar's Palace is the Flamingo. In the background, that would make that building over there the Rio, and she didn't smash the Rio because my girl has taste. Also, it's playing The Devil in Disguise by Elvis Presley, which is just so fake. I assume all of the people of Vegas think this is a giant demon and they're entering an apocalypse where they were not raptured because Vegas is for sinners. A side note that I'm very sure Edwards wasn't thinking about. In Lilo and Stitch, Stitch creates that mini San Francisco scene and destroys it like any monster would do. The next Elvis song that plays in that movie is Devil in Disguise. Also is that they always gotta mess up historical monuments or something culturally significant. And the female Muto destroyed Vegas' Eiffel Tower. We even see footage of her taking it down in the next scene. Gareth Edwards mentioned taking down Vegas for a kaiju would be like going to Disneyland because it's all miniature versions of all major landmarks. We learned the Mutos have been communicating as mating calls. The females stay dormant, and once the male awaken, according to Dr. Serizawa, their plan is to lure the beast with radiation bomb and then kill them. That's when Dr. Serizawa shares his story of his father with Stents and uses the pocket watch as symbolism of what working with nuclear warheads can do. Edwards is the name of the airplane carrying the soldiers. This could be a direct call out to Gareth Edwards, the director, or just a reference to Edwards Air Force Base, which was a bombing range in 1933 and later became a major bombing training base in World War II. Back with Elle, she's working in the hospital and had to bring Sam, who's stuck on that news station again. He's infatuated with these dinosaurs. The news tells us that people are evacuating California and Nevada. This might just be me being a lunatic. Blame Eric Voss, but the head nurse at San Francisco's General Hospital is wearing this pen with an X on it. And yes, we're doing an X-Men rewatch series that I can't get enough of, but this woman also plays Madeline Drake, aka Iceman's mom in
fuck
X2.
outta
X-Men
here, bro.
Days of Future Past came out 1 week after this movie. So is this a coincidence? Perhaps. But I'd argue it's not a cross. That's clearly an X. Stens is on the red phone, which we know in military movies is a direct line to the president or someone of power. It represents immediate communication. We see it in Dr. Strangelove, even the Powerpuff Girls. Though seemingly a myth about the Washington-Moscow Cold War red phone, it always is depicted in movies and books to this day. Behind him is a map of the trajectory of all three creatures. We can see that the female Muto is nearing San Francisco, and the male Muto trails ahead of Godzilla still in the North Pacific. This scene alone with the Muto is so sick, and we get a clear shot of the eggs that she is carrying. Then she takes more radiation, which, great. Did the opposite of help. See what happens when we interfere. The next day, Ford washes up on the beach. Many of the companions are dead, but we see a coyote frighten and run away. Now, this could symbolize how Ford is alone again, a one-man pack like this coyote, but I think it's another Godzilla reference. Gareth Edwards mentions coding Godzilla to bears and wolves. I told myself, okay, I'll let this wolf or coyote slide if I see a bear or image of one later. At the end of the movie on the dock, we see the California flags proudly waving the bear. In that scene, after finding light bears, Godzilla stalks and hunts his prey, biting her in the neck. This is to remind us that they're animals, and this lone coyote can foreshadow Ford braving the world alone when he chooses to set those eggs ablaze at the end. Or seeing reflections of Godzilla and nature and humanity through the film and recognizing he's the balance we need. He's everything. I love this film. I love theorizing. All the BART stations are designated shelters. We see one later before the big fight, and this is a common kaiju move to hide in a transport station or underground. Monarch Legacy of Monsters were in a train station. Pacific Rim was just underground. Then usually the beast shows up and is like, surprise! Then we jump over to the Oakland, California Tactical Operations Command. Here we find out that they're converging on the bridge where the buses still are. And on the San Francisco Bridge, that should look familiar because it's the same spot used for the Golden Gate Bridge scene in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. There's an immense traffic with the cops and yellow buses everywhere. Unfortunately, one of those buses hosts Legacy Monarch or Monsters character, Kate Rhonda, and if you're keeping up with that show, she only saves like 4 kids on that bus. He said himself, you can't have a disaster movie without a school busload of kids on a bridge with a giant monster. It's Cinema 101, you guys. They began arming the device, and it's an homage to the design of the bomb made from the 1964 James Bond 007 film Goldfinger. Now that they're actually next to each other, the female moto is much larger than the male, which is common in a lot of insects. Female insects tend to be more aggressive as well because the male insects have little purpose other than to mate. Female insects feed, birth, and usually raise their young. So I like here we're seeing the male muto deliver the radiation to the female muto as an offering, because she's his queen. Then her eggs absorb the radiation and then bang, I'm kidding. They don't do that. But Gareth Edwards did tweet out from the Monsterverse account during the watch along 4 years ago, every film should have giant monster sex. Hashtag another Cinema 101. So, I guess that's our boy. They devised a plan of attack, but I forget that this guy right here is during the watch along 4 years ago, every film should have giant monster sex. Hashtag another Cinema 101. Radiation and then bang, I'm kidding. They don't do that. But Gareth Edwards did tweet out from the Monsterverse account during the watch along 4 years ago, every film should have giant monster sex. Hashtag another of the radiation and then bang, I'm kidding. They don't do that. But Gareth Edwards did tweet out from the Monsterverse account during the watch along 4 years ago, every film should have giant monster sex. Hashtag another Cinema 101. So I guess that's our boy. They devised a plan of attack, but I forget that this guy right here is Jared Kiso from Letterkenny. Of course he's a jumper. We get another quote, the quote from Dr. Serizawa right here.
Let them fight.
Everyone thought that this was going to be Rodan when the trailer dropped. The similarities are very, very similar, so I understand the call out. One of the jumpers begins praying, and Ford looks at a picture of his wife and kid. This moment reminds us that his dad said to protect his family no matter what, and right before his dad died, he finally got a picture of his wife, included Ford, so it was a great photo. The green light then switches to red, so we know he's in the zone and what he's fighting for. Then we get the Halo jump stands for high altitude, low opening. The song playing right now is Requiem for Soprano, Mezzo-Soprano, 2 mixed choirs, and orchestra. This is used in like 2001 Space Odyssey, and it also sounds like we got a remix version of it in the first Godzilla X Kong trailer. Gareth never heard of a Halo jump, which is, I guess, common, but the writer of the movie suggested the sequence, and it clearly worked out. It's featured in Godzilla, Kong, and the Monsters as well to connect to this movie. The Halo jump is freaking sick. I said it. It looks like a moving portrait, you guys. The score, the writing, the cinematography all clash beautifully in this moment. Following the dive after a closing prayer adds to the angelic imagery like we're watching angels vanish from the skies. Literally, they're falling through clouds, red tails of smoke, tracking their descent into a city on fire. Like, this is the apocalypse, and I love this movie. On the ground, the female Muto is laying her eggs in a hole she's made in Chinatown, and honestly, I hate it. I don't want to see the scene ever again. But it's kind of funny that she was like, I'm gonna lay these eggs down real quick, and then I'm gonna beat your ass. It's like she's like taking off her earrings, but instead she's just depositing her babies into like the ground. This area of Chinatown was the main street set for Zack Snyder's Watchmen also. A lot of big franchises like this use the same sets. We hear Godzilla's massive roar. This roar took 2 years to make. They found using metal and dried ice created the central design element for the updated Godzilla roar. And you think that sounds easy, but it is not. In college, I took a Foley class and we had to recreate this design, and mine sounded like a fart. So yeah, it's really hard. Dried ice super cools certain types of metal, and it starts contracting and vibrating and produces this shrieking and bellowing, and that's what they used for it. This shot for me must happen in any kaiju movie. When it's a 1v1, I want to see them tearing up that city. This shot is also just kind of funny overall because it looks and feels like the shots from an old Godzilla movie, but with the bump of future money. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is some real tough shit. For the voices of the soldiers on the roof, the sound designer made them go outside and play paintball with microphones so they were out of breath and nervous, and I think you can hear it more when Ford is like falling from the plane.
Indians worked together for 2 years.
That nigga's nervous. Nigga breathing hard as hell. Like, oh, what the fuck out of here?
Working skincare. That's a job for O'Keefe's for healthy feet.
Oh shit.
Your bathroom needs Febreze small spaces. The always-on odor-fighting air freshener you set and forget. No outlets used, no batteries needed, no effort required. So your bathroom stays continuously fresh for 45 days. That's the power of Febreze small spaces.
Hey buddy, you okay? The control. We got a race to win.
Adventure racing is 400 miles of climbing, biking, and kayaking.
What's it, boy?
Oh, that doctor saved us.
Oh, hell, we get all the way from here to there while we were on bikes, zip lines, running, and climbing.
He must have wings we don't know about.
Daddy has a dog?
Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba. Hey-ho, 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 hey-ho.
Every hit is a noise. Every hit is a it's so good. We're inside the Muto's nest, and it's actually the same set for the mine in the Philippines that opened the movie because it's the full circle moment. We see a dragon's head under the gasoline, and a lot of fans suspected that this nod could be to Ghidorah, who would appear later in the Godzilla King of the Monsters franchise. Or it could be Manda from the open the movie because it's the full circle. For the voices of the soldiers on the roof, the sound designer made them go outside and play paintball with microphones so they were out of breath and nervous, and I think you can hear it more when Ford is like falling from the plane. When Godzilla is getting double teamed, I just want you to hear how dramatic the score is first. Every hit is a noise. Every hit is a it's so good. We're inside the Muto's nest, and it's actually the same set for the mine in the Philippines that opened the movie because it's the full circle moment. We see a dragon's head under the gasoline, and a lot of fans suspected that this nod could be to Ghidorah, who would appear later in the Godzilla King of the Monsters franchise. Or it could be Manda from the '63 Godzilla. Godzilla tail whips the male Muto. We've seen him do this against Kong and King Ghidorah in the other movies. This is his great signature. Ford pulls out his gun ready to unload on Miss Muto. Surprisingly though, for a military man that's been attacked like 3 times now in this movie, he has yet to shoot his gun, and he still does it. Then, truly, the best moment happens depending on how wild you are. Godzilla sets up for the atomic breath. They had so many ideas for the atomic breath, making it electric blue so it gave off the epitome of like a god of nature, but wanting to make it massive like the other movies. They decided to kill the female Muto by opening its mouth and pouring atomic vomit down its throat. They assumed it wouldn't work, but people ended up loving it, so it stayed in the film. They thought about just breaking its jaw, but that would have been too close to the 2005 King Kong movie, if you remember that horrific scene. Gareth called it like an almost kiss, and weirdly it sounds beautiful, but nothing's beautiful about the scene. It's just pure wreckage. Additionally, the lore keeper mentioned Godzilla's breath is powered by nucleosynthetic glands in his throat, and I think that's really cool. This also is the only moment Godzilla looks at a human. Gareth Edwards mentioned it's pretty hard to make a film when your title character never looks at another person. This is also one of the couple scenes where Andy Serkis came in for a few weeks and performed some of the key soulful Godzilla moments, so they could use the same eye movements to give him more like soul. The ship Ford gets on with the bomb says "Go whales" on the side. This is a reference to Gojira and the Japanese word for Godzilla, which has a combination of the words gorilla and whale. After Godzilla vomits down the creature's throat, separating her head from her thorax, the lights come back on around the city, but the ship boards on and sails away. And like that, Godzilla and Ford collapse, tired from their battles. The next morning, the first responders are saving folks from under debris when Godzilla awakens. On the other side of the story, Elle, Sam, and Ford are finally reunited. The stadium is BC Place Stadium, Vancouver, Canada, and I'm sure overall it wasn't really thought of what to name the stadium because the only stadium in San Francisco, is the Chase Center, but that didn't open up until 2019. I think the biggest takeaway, bigger than the arena, is Gareth Edwards says, "You can argue that Ford died here and the stadium is heaven." But I don't think The breaking news refers to Godzilla as the King of the Monsters, an Easter egg for the third movie to come with the same title. Originally, the screenwriter Max made a cameo here, though Gareth said his acting skills were not as good, so they cut it. And I'm sure they just cut it for time. It wasn't his acting. Everybody cheers as the pain Godzilla makes his way back to the water. The Rocky films were actually the inspiration for this end sequence, and I hope you remember the end of the first Rocky movie where he gets his ass kicked, he wins, and screams, "Adrian!" and nothing but cheers and applause is everywhere. That's what Gareth wanted. Godzilla exits back into the water. Next, we see him living underwater where he's observed by Monarch's outpost in King of Monsters. And that is it for my revisit, my rewatch, my re-breakdown to Gareth Edwards' 2014 Godzilla. This movie really set up Godzilla for me, and its fandom, it really opened that door for me. I was immediately in love, and it fueled my passion in college to watch as many of those movies as I could, and I just dove in with my friends. This and Pacific Rim are literally my love language. This journey is just getting started because next week we're breaking down Kong Skull Island. It will probably not be as long as this one. This one is just my favorite one. Huge major thanks to my best friend in the universe, Noah Chen, for helping me write this breakdown. Follow me on Instagram, Clemens, and subscribe to all of our channels in the New Rockstars Network for all that deep analysis that you little monsters can't get enough of. And always remember, let them fight.
Fuck it.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemens, and this is a breakdown of 2017 Skull Island. This is our MonsterVerse rewatch series, and oh my Godzilla! Every week I'll be descending into Hollow Earth with you for our MonsterVerse rewatch series and breaking down each of the MonsterVerse films, plus Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Today we'll be surviving, crashing into uncharted territory. Creatures unknown to man, ruled by a god and king. Protector of man and balance, I'm talking King Kong. The movie opens with the Warner Brothers picture logo and legendary rewatch series, and oh my, Godzilla! Every week I'll be descending into Hollow Earth with you for our MonsterVerse rewatch series and breaking down each of the MonsterVerse films, plus Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Today we'll be surviving, crashing into uncharted territory. Creatures unknown to man, ruled by a god and king. Protector of man and balance, I'm talking King Kong. The movie opens with the Warner Brothers picture logo and legendary logo, designed with metal like it's under construction. It does look like the aluminum used on the old P-51 Mustangs, which is the plane that
I'll y'all.
The movie opens with the Warner Brothers picture logo and legendary logo, designed with...
Bitch, what is this I'm feeling?
Every week I'll be descending into Hollow Earth with you for our MonsterVerse rewatch series and breaking down each of the MonsterVerse films, plus Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Today we'll be surviving, crashing into uncharted territory. Creatures unknown to man, ruled by a god and king. Protector of man and balance, I'm talking King Kong. The movie opens with the Warner Brothers picture logo and legendary logo, designed with metal like it's under construction. It does look like the aluminum used on the old P-51 Mustangs, which is the plane that Marlowe flies. Unlike the 2014 Godzilla, which was only rep by Warner Brothers and Legendary, this one is showing Tencent Pictures as well. Tencent Pictures is a Chinese film distributor and production company owned by Tencent, and Tencent is a massive company that oversees like League of Legends in China and operates WeChat. They're huge. Tencent has a joint venture with Wanda Group, an even more massive Chinese conglomerate that acquired Legendary Entertainment in 2016. Their first major co-production was The Great Wall, starring Matt Damon, a story originated by the big man on campus himself, Legendary founder and CEO Thomas Tull. So I will be forgiven that one.
Old Spice gives you 24/7 lasting freshness.
Tell me everything. Yes. I am finding
What
people
do you
find
want?
fascinating.
See what the world is really like.
Yes.
Let's also dive and move like war pilots evading bullets, which is what we're about to see the aftermath of. Somewhere over the Pacific in 1944 during World War II, a fighter pilot crashes his plane into the shores of a beach. In terms of the MonsterVerse timeline, this would be a few years before the founding of Monarch in 1946. We open on Skull Island with the same imagery we get leaving this movie, a beaming sun. This is our young Hank Marlowe, played by Will Britton. He also plays Hank's son when he returns home at the end of the film. Then the Japanese pilot begins to fall from the sky, his perfectly white parachute. This is Gunpei Akari, played by Miyagi. Their name is a reference to both Nintendo's video game designer Gunpei Yokoi and Shinji Ikari from Genesis Evangelion. We see Marlowe's jacket that's also covered in a bunch of Easter eggs. The Steve Brule one from the most uncomfortable character in the Adult Swim series, Tim and Eric Awesome Show, great job. I think they also got their own spin-off. He coined a great catchphrase now, made into this amazing Easter egg. Also a reference to Akira, as a character who wore a similar jacket, good for health, bad for education. On his chest we have the Lizard Company patch, a taxi driver reference. Gunpei holds out his sword and we see this writing on it, and it loosely translates to leave the results to heaven, a term used when you've done everything you could or just need to do. Then we see our very first sighting of Kong in the movie. He's a little younger looking because this was some time ago. He's technically an adolescent. Also we see how large his hand is, and later we see how massive his body is, and that's because at this time this was the tallest version of King Kong since 1962, where he was 147 feet tall. In this movie, he's 104 feet tall, but in the next movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, he'll be supremely upgraded to 335 feet tall. Why would you do that? However, it is stated in the film that Kong is still growing, which could explain why he's taller in Godzilla vs. Kong. We end the sequence of fight zooming into Marlowe's eye like we do King Kong at the end. This could easily be symbolism of how comparable Kong and Marlowe are, or will be. Marlowe and Gunpei landed immediately at war with each other, then later learned to live and survive. And this we should be seeing in Godzilla x Kong, with Godzilla and Kong having to put their differences aside to fight the real monsters of the movie. The opening title sequence is created by Kyle Cooper, who did the intro for the 2014 Godzilla as well. This is set between 1944 and 1973, with real historical clips as little insights into Monarch's founding and growth, culminating in the discovery of Skull Island. This includes the start of the satellite project. This is the same satellite that Bill Randa obtained his first images from the island from. Also, funnily enough, Bill's son Hiroshi would later be kicked out of Monarch for commandeering satellites to track Titans. We open on World War II footage of a plane being shot down in the ocean. This thematically ties in with what we just saw. Two pilots crashing down on an unknown island during World War II. Noah found a website that has a bunch of archived World War II footage, and it has some very similar looking videos of planes being shot down in the Pacific, so this clip could be from there. As a way of transition, we get these dates that might seem random, but I think they're following somewhat chronologically the MonsterVerse timeline. For instance, we have December 1945, the year after Marlowe and Gunpei landed, and 1 year before Monarch begins. Then from Spring 46 to Tom Hiddleston's name, this could be the age of James Conrad, as later we're in the 70s, he looks like he's in his mid-30s, or it could be focusing more on the footage pertaining to Monarch. Then we get footage of an American military parade. This is either VJ Day in New York City in 1945 or the Second Airborne Victory Parade in New York City in 1946. We see a 1946 newspaper headline, "Victory, Japan Surrenders." There were many newspapers with similar headlines at the time, so this could be one of many. Truman gave a speech in Berlin talking about the possibility of a glorious future if the machine of industry can be harnessed effectively. This quote sets up the tragedy of the Vietnam War, which is that in no way were we able to harness the American machine to work for peace. The time quickly jumps from February 1947 to May 1947, then Samuel Jackson's name. Footage of female workers during World War II. A lot of women entered industrial jobs previously held by men who left for the war, and I think that's just what we're seeing here. A newlywed couple enters the house, showing baby boomer population spike, I assume. It also reminds me of how the final scene of Marlo returning home. Jumping again with the time codes, August 1948 to 49 in some white American suburbs. A lot of soldiers were given housing loans upon returning home, but these mostly went to white people and led to the suburbs of today. Just an average, Norman Rockwell looking thing. I don't care. We get map overlaid on radar footage. This might be Monarch stuff. We saw similar lines on a map from Monarch TV show, but these were tracking Titan's movements. I think this is just a standard wavy line of a map. These could be ecliptic lines meant to show the path of the sun in different seasons, though. Then we get subs and maybe the Pacific. Titans frequently attack subs, as we saw in the Godzilla intro. U.S. unveils Earth satellite. This is a satellite program that will eventually get photos of Skull Island and cause Bill Rhonda to investigate. Eisenhower gave a speech on the state of the satellite project and footage of maps and photos potentially taken from that said satellite. Plane flying over tropical islands, presumably not Skull Island, as it wasn't discovered until the 70s. Maybe this is Vietnam, where much of this movie is just shot. We see the full document that was in the Godzilla opening credits, and it's from Harry Truman about destroying the monsters in the Pacific. Obviously, in Godzilla, this was referencing Godzilla, but since they're reusing it here, they might be trying to recontextualize it to mean Kong, or they just want to show that this is the same universe. The deputy director of Monarch has made a strong case to eliminate the creature in the Pacific Ocean. To extinguish the threat, it is with an executive order that I hereby authorize Operation Muto to use the atomic bomb. The creature possesses a threat to our military and thus possesses a threat to the national security of the American people. It is up to Monarch to end the terror that this abomination has brought forward. This is for the protection of our country and to secure the interests of the free world. We will protect all from the heretofore unprecedented threats from the natural world. Regards, Harry S. Truman. So this is written by Truman, who is the president before Eisenhower, who we just saw giving a speech. Chronologically, this should have been shown first. Also, typos in that I'm guessing are meant to be the result of this being written on a typewriter and thus not being correctable. Also, Truman is the president Rhonda mentions later, who originally funded Monarch. Another Monarch eyes-only footage. This film may only be viewed by authorized personnel. Under no circumstances may this film be distributed or transferred outside of the Monarch offices. Langley, Virginia, February 15, 1947. Hilariously, the yellow text says February 1951, but the date on the film says 1947. In general, this...
Meet Milo. He's part border collie, part terrier.
The timeline is a
Part, I don't give a damn.
I think the Monarch show had Monarch founded in 1952, which is when Rhonda, Keiko, and Shaw first encountered a Titan. I think the Monarch show retconned the timeline a little bit. Satellite images that then prompted the discovery of Skull Island, as well as a classified mission authorization file for the expedition into the unknown. Monarch footage of the Castle Bravo nuclear test. This was really a test to try and lure a Titan using a bunch of uranium, which worked. When Godzilla showed up, the army decided to launch a nuke in an attempt to kill him, despite objections from Monarch, who wanted to study the Titan. This newspaper headline was also from Godzilla's credits. In the show, the context was a bunch of military subs had gone missing, and it was implied to be the work of Godzilla. In fact, an American nuclear submarine is what initially woke up Godzilla in the 40s. It honestly doesn't make a ton of sense that it shows up in this Kong movie, but maybe the title sequence creators were cutting some corners and reusing content, or maybe they were just told to, so we know that it's in the same universe as Godzilla's film. It could be anything. Another destroyed ship. There's a famous boat that a Titan destroyed that Rhonda was on, the USS Locke. Rhonda talks about it later in the movie. This could be that ship. Astronaut Senator John Glenn giving a speech. He was speaking about the limitless future of space exploration when he gave this speech. I feel we are on the brink of an area of expansion of knowledge. Footage of the spaceship ejecting a capsule ties into Glenn's speech. A file on Muto skeleton, given the shape of the skeleton in the top left corner. I think this may be a skull crawler, as it seems to have two arms and a long tail. Then shots of someone inserting tape into a tape recorder, perhaps debriefing a Monarch agent. After they showed them the skeleton mountain of the Muto file, children playing in a Sputnik ride toy. The Sputnik was a Soviet satellite launched in 1957. Rhonda mentions the Soviets will soon also have footage of Skull Island, so this might be a reference to the fact that they have satellites too. For the first time, we're putting cameras into space and looking down on Earth. Footage of animated video explaining satellites. We couldn't find the source for either of these videos, but we got pretty close here. We get the logo for Landsat, a program that captures satellite images of Earth. Victor, played by John Ortez, and Steve, played by Mark Evan Jackson, both work for Landsat in the movie. Then we get this stuff that you know damn well I cannot pronounce. Oxidizing, adenine, you know I can't pronounce these words. They're science terms. Footage of plants growing, a wooded mountain, helicopter landing with soldiers, could be in Vietnam. The titles place this around 1956, and Vietnam started in 1955. A snake skeleton, or eel, or skull crawler. It looks like it might have some small arms near the head, but hard to tell for sure. I'm thinking it's an eel though. A turtle Muto diagram. This could be a magma turtle from the Skull Island tie-in comic book. It could also be a reference to Gamera, the big turtle monster kaiju. Gamera hasn't shown up yet though. Octopus camouflaged itself. Many creatures on Skull Island developed camouflage due to all the giant predators roaming the island, like this cutie pie right here, this poor mantis. The most intelligent inhabitants of the future world won't be men or monkeys. They'll be machines. Quote by Arthur C. Clarke, famous sci-fi writer. He wrote the script for 2001: Space Odyssey and many stories and books. A space launch. This might be the Vanguard, a failed U.S. rocket launch in 1957. I couldn't find a photo of the rocket that matches this one exactly though. It could also be the Jupiter C, which also launched in 1957. However, the satellite shown later matches the Vanguard satellite. 1957 was also the year the Russians beat the U.S. in launching an orbiting satellite, which plays into Rhonda and Houston using Russia as a threat to convince the congressman to fund the expedition. A couple dancing fighter jets showing how far aviation technology has come since Marlowe's plane crashed. Soldiers storming the beach, maybe Normandy. But timeline-wise, we're in the 50s, so maybe just Vietnam. Then we get this JFK speech. So this came from the address JFK gave at Rice University on the state of America's space efforts. The speech talks about how despite all the knowledge we've gained, we've also increased in ignorance. And there's still much more about the universe that we just don't know. These themes of discovery and knowledge versus ignorance play a role in Skull Island, particularly with Samuel L. Jackson's character and how he wants to kill Kong instead of learning more about him. His quote leads into the images of the Vietnam War protests. We get more rocket launches, explorers in the snowy environment. Notably, in the Monsterverse, there are bio vortexes in the Arctic, so maybe this is a Monarch research team. Circling the shape of water, this could be Godzilla or the shape of water. I just need to play that line. Civil rights movement, signs reading it's 1960, not 1860. Along with technological advancements, this title sequence also covers the social movements of the times between 1945 and 1970. The moon landing, astronauts in zero gravity, a woman dancing at a music festival, perhaps Woodstock, a soldier hugging a woman on a landing strip, soldiers in Vietnam, Robert Kennedy giving a speech following the death of Martin Luther King Jr. This quote from Edith Hamilton: "To tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world." This quote is credited by Aeschylus. In ancient Greek, but after doing some digging, it appears that Edith Hamilton, educator and author, was the first to use the phrase after combining two other ancient Greek phrases. Check that, Aeschylus. Protesters waving a red sign of peace. Okay, this is Skull Island. It matches the satellite photos shown a little later. It appears to be an elevation map with a small circle in the middle being the island's highest point. If so, I think this is the skull of Skull Island. We see later where Kong seems to live. Military police and gas masks, can't be sure, but I think this is supposed to be the Kent State shootings. Power to the people flag, a bunch of flipping cops, animal lies, explosions in Vietnam. William Rhonda's field notes on his trip to Skull Island, titled A Post-Darwin Thesis on the Nature of Our World. I assume by post-Darwin he's saying that the humans are no longer at the top of the evolutionary chain. This must have been recovered after his death. He describes the island as containing geologically unstable plains of the island, suggest a self-contained biome in which the path of evolution has skewed into a dramatic new tangent, manifesting life forms that are unlike anything else on our planet. We see his full report on the flora fauna, a previously undiscovered classification of terrestrial life that he proposes may be found on Skull Island. Police breaking up a protest or concert, then gas mask wearing soldiers in an American city, bombs dropping and deliver us from evil sign, the wicked dreams of Paula Schultz, starting out summer on the movie theater sign behind them, and then we have Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon, doing his trademark V for victory pose, then more soldiers, protests in Washington, and then a smooth ass transition into the movie. And please, hold your applause for the end. I know, thank you. We did it. We went through the beginning montage. We open the movie with protests of the war and the old Bill Rhonda, played by John Goodman. Younger Bill was one of the main characters in the Monarch TV show, played by Anders Holm. We saw how he founded the organization with Keiko and Shaw, both of whom by this point had disappeared into Hollow Earth. Corey Hawkins plays Houston Brooks. An older version portrayed by Joe Morton appears in Godzilla King of the Monsters. He also appears in the Aftershock comic.
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Oh, wow. And bruh, I was thinking, why these niggas haven't been coming back? I didn't know that was
Mark
him.
Hawkins plays
That's
Houston Brooks,
crazy.
an older version portrayed by Joe Morton appears in Godzilla King of the Monsters. He also appears
Crazy.
in Aftershock comic books. Captain Ahab is also inspiration for Bill Ronda's character from Moby Dick, which makes complete sense seeing as both these characters became disturbingly obsessed with large creatures they've encountered like only once. Brooks is holding an old school 70s Monarch briefcase, so you know they mean business here. We learn in the intro that Monarch is broken and on the cusp of being shut down. They only had so much screen time to hit the 70s vibe in this movie because we're immediately taken to Skull Island. Director Jordan Bot Roberts, who I'll refer to as Director Jordan, he noted this. Before we see Senator Willis, Brooks notices one of the 3 TVs playing Nixon's Peace with Honor speech and footage. Senator Willis is played by Richard Jenkins, who also starred as John C. Reilly, aka Hank Marlowe's dad and Step Brothers. I'll comment on it when we see it throughout this movie, but this movie is filled with a bunch of comedians or Marvel heroes, and I don't know why. And who would have thought that super comedians make for a good comedy movie? Because they do. We get to the satellite photo of the uncharted island in the South Pacific that no one knew until now. The same satellite we spoke on earlier in the credits, I assume, is what they're talking about in what's up. Rhonda calls it Skull Island, the land where God did not finish creation. Rhonda goes on to mention in 1946, Harry Truman, Bud and Monarch, and Senator Willis says this about the idea of creatures existing.
You know, in terms of sheer waste, Monarch ranks right up there with the search for alien life. Yeah, but those guys are nuts.
This joke retroactively became funnier because we know that Ghidorah was in fact an alien. He'll also need...
Something bad has happened to Mom. I can feel it.
She will come back.
That bitch got ran over. Crazy.
Military escort, kind of like Lee Shaw and Keiko in Legacy of Monsters. The music playing right now is Time Has Come Today by the Chambers Brothers, and we're in Vietnam, or specifically in the Da Nang Air Base. We see the banners for the 3rd Assault Sky Devils. I couldn't find anything on the actual Sky Devils being real, but I did find the 1932 American aviation comedy film of the 2 people who find themselves at the American aviation field of trade and become pilots when they didn't want to be. During development, there were several different conceptual iterations for the Sky Devils logo before settling on the final one in the film, and these are what they actually had to look like. We then meet the Sky Devils air unit. Shea Wingham plays Cole, and Thomas Mann plays Slipko, Jason Mitchell plays Mills, and Eugene Cordero plays Rose. Also, yes, Eugene Cordero is a comedic actor and improviser who also stars as Casey in Loki. Shea Wingham was an Agent Carter and voiced George Stacy in Across the Spider-Verse, so it's all like one sub-Marvel gathering, and I miss it. Cole's reading Captain Courageous by Rudyard Kipling, the 1967 print. Then we're introduced to Samuel L. Jackson as Packard, again another Marvel icon, Nick Fury. This movie was released March 10, 2017, okay? Guardians 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok all came out that year. All without Samuel L. Jackson, and I'm pretty sure excluding post-credit scenes. Packard is booming because he doesn't know what
See,
to
bro,
do
they
with the
pushed
world
out
over.
3 bangers that year, and they trying to make it seem like, oh, all the ones we can have good movies just drop 1 a year. What?
Toby Gabell, along with Terry Notary, both provided motion capture for Kong.
We about to see how this turns out. I swear.
They did the subtle facial expressions. Toby also played Koba and Dawn on Planet of the Apes. And the lighting drops with the sound of the helicopter propellers, and I like that this lieutenant, a brave, massive ego man, is becoming small as the helicopters fade away. Like, what's next? Like, the light in his life is gone with the war now. We're then taken to Saigon District. Brooks and Bill venture to find James Conrad, former Special Air Service. We end up at a sort of brothel that has incredibly perfect lighting. When we're outside the brothel, the yellow light is giving like Apocalypse Now, and inside the building, the light is just so colorful. This form of subjective lighting and cinematography is taking on an excellent casting. Illustrates what we're at, a place where freedom meets like taboo. How vibrant these lights contrast with being cast in the shadows is just so nice. And I love it because it's a brothel. The song playing right now is White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. You know, Feed Your Head song. These 70s movies love playing that song. It's in Platoon as well. Tom Hiddleston plays Conrad, and let me tell you, this man is fun as hell. And he's another Marvel icon, our very best Loki, who stars in this movie alongside Eugene Cordero, aka Casey in Loki. And from BTS footage of this movie, it seemed like they got very close. And it's just nice seeing it and knowing they become a team of their own in a different show movie. Also, the lighting during Tom Hiddleston's introduction is very bisexual lighting, just like Godzilla X Kong, another bisexual. Conrad is most likely named after Joseph Conrad, author of Heart of Darkness, the novella upon which Apocalypse Now is based on, while the character Hank Marlowe is most likely named after Marlowe, the book's protagonist. The movie poster also is inspiration from the Apocalypse Now poster. Director Jordan really grabbed a lot of inspiration from 70s war movies. He just wanted a 70s war movie style with Kong, so there's a lot of references to those movies that I'll be pointing out throughout the film. Then we meet Brie Larson's character, Mason Weaver, another icon from Marvel Wheelhouse. She's also an anti-war photographer. The song playing is Long Cool Woman in a Black Dress by the Hollies, really highlighting how cool we get. just is. And fun fact, Brie Larson is actually a real photographer, and she brought her vintage 81 set to take actual photos. I also like how the red light in the darkroom illuminates the phone to look like a red phone, which I mentioned in the last movie is the direct line to the president or someone in power equivalent. In this case, it's Jerry. The voice on the phone is played by Thomas Middleditch, who later starred in the MonsterVerse as Sam Coleman and Godzilla King of the Monsters. On the ship, we learn that Skull Island is surrounded by a perpetual storm system. This storm system would eventually be disastrous for people living on the island after the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters. You see, King Ghidorah left some storm behind that mixed with the Skull Island storm into a mega storm and caused the island to be virtually uninhabitable for the evil tribes. However, a monarch outpost
Ghidorah did that? Really?
Surrounded by a perpetual storm system. This storm system would eventually be disastrous for people living on the island after the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters. You see, King Ghidorah left some storm behind that mixed with the Skull Island storm into a mega storm and caused the island to be virtually uninhabitable for the evil tribes. However, a monarch outpost kept calm in a giant dome facility. It also feels like this entire debrief is literally an homage to the 76 Kong movie. They go through the same style of presentation with similar imagery. Their characters are also very similar to the King Kong 33 styles. Rhonda is like Carl Denham, Conrad is like Jack Driscoll, and Packard is like Captain Inglewood. We want to thank Geology for sponsoring this video, but also to thank them for making sure we look camera ready in or body product when you add it to your trial. That's 100% off, plus an additional 30% off. Oh, that's a lot of offs. Just click the link in the description or go to geolog.ie/rockstars100 and get started. They plan to use bombs to map the terrain and better understand the density of the island, and I don't think it comes up in this movie, but Skull Island does have a rift to Hollow Earth. Apparently, they're all just called biovortexes. Again, arcade, that's early. They're preparing to leave for Skull Island down the street by the Stooges' place, reinforcing the 70s war theme that we got going on here. Packard says this iconic Jurassic Park line.
Hold on to your butts. Hold on to your butts.